Okay, before you get all up in arms about the title and thumbnail of this video, I do want to clarify my stance on the situation. I'm not saying that the next 40 movies I'm going to be reviewing today are worse than the previous 80 I've already reviewed in my previous 2 videos that are on my channel. The dramatic and clickable title and thumbnail are referring to the fact that Disney Channel is extremely less successful now than it was in the past, not because of some sort of drop in quality, but because cable television as a whole had a massive decline in viewership as streaming services and social media took a hold of the public's attention. My enjoyment of these movies is not going to be directly impacted by this fact, but it is something that's going to be in the back of my mind as I review these movies, since the context of their existence is important to understanding their creation and overall purpose as a film. With all of that out of the way, hi there, welcome to the video. This is part 3 of a 3-part series I'm doing on my channel where I review every Disney Channel original movie, starting in the 90s and ending in the modern day. You don't have to have watched the previous parts to understand this one, other than the fact that we're breaking up the movies into distinct eras of the channel based off of the style of the advertisements that were used on their network. We last left off reviewing the movie Starstruck, which was the last movie of the Ribbon era, which was, from a numbers perspective, the highest amount of viewership the network ever got in its history as a channel. And we will now be continuing with the Rounded Square era, which, awkward name aside, is probably going to be the network's biggest moment of transition. So let's get into dissecting what the Rounded Square era is, and then get started with reviewing some movies. It's kind of wild that I'm already at the end of this series, and I can't wait to see what we end up learning next. The Rounded Square era can best be described as one big compromise. With the times changing and us officially being in the 2010s, the world and culture of Disney's main market and cable television as a whole was about to drastically change more than it ever had before. But we're not quite there yet. While we may have passed Disney Channel's peak, we are still sky high in the ratings. See what I did there? And the company is really starting to reap the benefits of their golden age of Hollywood-style marketing with their stars. Outside of the Disney Channel, you will rarely see a star from their network appearing elsewhere, which really proves how elite their marketing, and most likely their contracts, were at the time. So what has changed from the Ribbon era to the Rounded Square era? Not much, well, except for the Rounded Square, that is. Can I talk about the Rounded Square? I've been dying to talk about the Rounded Square. This is one of my biggest fascinations when it comes to television history, specifically with the age of HD and digital conversion. When the CRT slowly and painfully became irrelevant and flat screens took their sweet time to become the dominant television in culture. Because of this, the original Disney Channel logo was not going to work, since it hugs the left side of the screen and it would look awkward placed near the middle center on an HD flat screen. So they put the logo in a box, specifically a rounded square. Are we starting to understand the name convention now? So now the logo would look good no matter what corner of the screen it was placed in, which I think helps a lot. The wand IDs are the clearest example of how the logo just does not transition well into 16:9 at all. Since even if it is in the corner of the screen like it's supposed to be, it's still just way too far away from the rest of the action and the visuals to look properly proportional. And for the people who still had box TVs in their homes, like myself did at the time, then most of the action would be cut off. So they opted to keep it right where it was normally and then add just white screen crusts surrounding it. This left the logo looking wonky and awkwardly center in 16:9, but normal in 4:3. Then all previously made wand IDs that were already in 4:3 had to air like normal, making it look like Disney Channel just accidentally cut the crusts off of your wand ID when you're watching on flat screen. You can see how this problem will become bigger and change later on in the timeline. Some of the big changes we see with Disney Channel when it comes to their advertising is more summer and winter promotional bumpers, and this is a purely anecdotal fact, by the way. I'm not sure if winter and summer marketing was as prominent in the previous eras as it is in this one, but it definitely feels that way. Like, I would argue that one of the movies we're about to talk about in the future literally only has a song in it because they wanted to use it for Disney Channel summer adverts. We'll talk about that song when we get there. They also beefed up already existing seasonal material like Monstober into bigger cultural powerhouses. My theories as to why Disney Channel Summer and the Fa La 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 Days, which is a horrible title to say out loud, My theories as to why these existed is that they were trying everything at this point to either counteract, kill on arrival, or delay the inevitable of the internet taking over the minds and attention spans of children nationwide. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite internet videos were at the time, because statistically, it's more likely that you haven't seen the next final 40-ish movies we have left to talk about. Which is a shame, because a lot of these movies are actually quite good, and I'm afraid the rounded square era might be overrepresented in my top 10 DComs at the end here. Please just try and grant me some grace and patience moving forward, okay? Either way, get prepared for an interesting and awkward ride as we blow through years at record speed never seen before. Okay, so I'm just about to start recording my audio. Yo, can you see the TV right now? That was insane. I can't believe I caught my reaction on camera. Oh my god. I was just about to talk about it too. Yo, that was... Yeah, so I was just about to say, isn't it funny that the last time I talked about a hockey movie, it was the Stanley Cup, and now it's been so long that it's another Stanley Cup the next time I'm talking about a hockey movie, and it looks like it's going to be a rematch of last year's Stanley Cup with the Oilers and the Panthers, because the Oilers just scored right when I hit record. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Anyways, if it wasn't obvious, I'm an Oilers fan. That's the team I've been rooting for these past few years. So, yeah, let's talk about a hockey movie, okay?
Come on, someone's gonna get hurt.
Power it down!
Den Brother isn't really that interesting of a film, but overall, it's a fun time if you're looking for some classic DCOM cheese and whimsy. Den Brother follows Hutch Dano as Alex Pearson and G. Hennelius as his brother Emily Pearson. Alex is a star hockey player who would rather make himself look good on the ice than actually have his team win a game. His sister is a bumblebee, which is a play on the Girl Scouts, whose troop is sadly being dissolved because their den mother is moving away. And Alex is incidentally roped into taking care of the girls one day when he goes to pick up his sister. Even though Alex is kind of a douchebag who schemed his way through life, specifically with trying to force this girl named Matisse to go out with him, and also trying to get himself a spot on the Hockey All-Stars team, he still has a fond, soft spot for his sister and wants to help his younger sister with her bumblebee team because he knows their dead mother would have been the one to do it if she were still here. Their dad is a professor who is constantly out of the house, and Alex resents the fact that he never attends any of his games. This is a DCOM after all, you gotta have at least one classic cliche. After Alex pulls the blunder of the century, he gets suspended from the hockey team, and his father realizes he hasn't been paying enough attention to his kids, and gives his son a long list of chores to do in hopes that it'll teach him some responsibility. Instead, he has his new bumblebee crew do all of the work for him, framing it as them earning some new achievements and badges that he's just making up on the fly. The main thing about his character is that he's kind of a horrible person who has to learn humility, but I actually think Hutch Dano has too much charisma and is way too likable as an actor to successfully pull off this sort of bumbling, selfish loser type. I feel like if they would have made him a swaggering, popular kid who everyone loves, it would have worked way better. But instead, everyone kind of clocks his insanely selfish behavior instantly and calls him out on it all the time. And he is constantly failing and embarrassing himself or getting in trouble with authority figures because of his actions immediately. Dano, as an immensely charming actor, would fit better in a character who got everything he wanted out of life, which all came crashing down because he took one action way too far, like him getting suspended. Or he should have changed his performance to better match the material he was giving and what it represents and reflects. Eventually, Alex realizes that he's been a horrible person and tries his best to right the wrongs he's committed towards his sister and their troop. There's also this evil den mother who is just hell-bent on upholding the rules and is suspicious of Alex, since he's technically just a junior helper and they don't have a real den mother for their troop, which means they should be dissolved. He works to become their actual den mother, aka Den Brother. Alex is also put back on the hockey team, and because of that, they win the championship. Yay. Overall, this was a fun, kind of cheesy movie. I think, if you need some sort of lighthearted, hockey-themed kind of boy decom, this might be a good one to put on. I'm at the library again, so apologies for the low quality audio. On June 25th, 2010, the movie 16 Wishes aired on Disney Channel. Here's the thing. I have absolutely no idea if this movie is actually considered a decom or not. And like the other Debbie Ryan movie we're going to talk about later, Radio Rebel, it was not made by Disney Channel in-house. So technically, if this movie's not a decom, then Radio Rebel also should not be a decom. But see, it comes back down to the marketing again. I watched the original advertisements for both Radio Rebel and 16 Wishes, and it seems like 16 Wishes was never advertised as a Disney Channel original movie, yet Radio Rebel was. So I think I'm going to have to rule this as a case of 16 Wishes not being a decom, so I'm not going to be reviewing it in this video.
It was only like 2 weeks before I was introduced to heroin and crack cocaine.
I ended up having a lot more thoughts about Camp Rock 2, The Final Jam, than I originally thought I would have. So I'm going to try and trim down all of my thoughts to be a bit more concise, because I probably could talk about all of the elements of this series for a long, long time. Camp Rock 2 follows Mitchie as she goes back to Camp Rock once again for summer vacation, preparing to see Shane again after not seeing him for a whole year, since Connect 3 has been on tour. Their tour bus tips over for literally no reason, and eventually the rest of the cast all meet up. But there's a new camp in town called Camp Star, which is much more modern looking and chromed out, and has caused Camp Rock to have less attendees this year. Camp Star then steals even more campers and most of the counselors from Camp Rock, to the point that our main cast of characters have to become counselors themselves to keep the camp running throughout the summer. One of the most notable things about Camp Rock 2 is the fact that it's a full, proper musical with reality-breaking moments where everyone breaks into song. The first one was a diegetic musical where all of the musical moments were performances that were happening in-universe at the moment of the performance. And even though I do love a good non-diegetic musical, I think the original version works better for the setting of the story, which is supposed to be very naturalistic and friendly in setting and cinematic language. To me, it seems like they really standardized the decom style by this point, since the warmth and cozy atmosphere that was in the first movie is just gone, has been replaced with a lot of flat, static shots and very bright colors. Maybe I'm just noticing the shift from film to digital, and I don't want to hate on digital as a whole, I just think that the shift brought an overall overhaul of the style of these movies, which might be for the worst overall. Anyways, Camp Star and Camp Rock have a show-off with each other and decide to have one big performance competition where a live audience votes on who was better. Also an at-home live audience who can text in which camp they thought had the better performance. And whichever camp wins gets to stay open. While Camp Star's performance is super slick and professional looking, Camp Rock's performance is very hippie and heavy on the fun factor. It looks like the odds are stacked against Camp Rock at the end, and surprisingly, they actually do end up losing. But in the end, all of the campers from Camp Star feel convinced to leave and go to Camp Rock next summer because of how fun they made the camp look during their performance. How many times can I say camp in this review? So it's a situation where they may have lost the battle, but they won the overall war. Camp Star did a good job of being flashy and well choreographed, but when it came to a place that kids can actually have fun at over spring break, Camp Rock looks 100% like the place you'd rather send your kids to over the summer. Overall, I was not that big of a fan of Camp Rock 2: The Final Jam. The songs were the same level of mediocre as the first one, but they didn't have the showstoppers like This Is Me to elevate the soundtrack overall. So I guess I would recommend this movie if you were watching the first one as well, but I'm not even sure I'd recommend this whole series as a whole. Sorry. Hi everyone, we just talked about the 80th DCOM Camp Rock 2, and as I'm working on this part, I just saw a comment on my channel saying that it was confusing having different random pop culture references being the introductions to each movie, because it's easy to confuse them with clips from the movie I'm talking about. I have literally never played audio of the clips from the movies I'm talking about, but just to avoid any further confusion and to make things easier for y'all, every single clip I will be using to introduce the movies will be a clip from My Babysitter's a Vampire. I don't want to hear any further questions or complaints. Oh my gosh, you can see the whole in my ceiling from when my ceiling fan fell while I was sitting right here. Luckily, I didn't get bonked in the head, but I could have.
Well, I couldn't decide between Merlin and the Mexican wrestler, so I picked both. Say hola to El Merlo Loco.
I feel like Avalon High should have been the non-musical project to get multiple sequels after the Halloween Town series end, because this movie was such a fun watch. I'd never seen this movie when it came out because, like I've said before, even when I was in my peak TV watching days, it was always a gamble on whether or not I actually watched the movies that were on TV or not. Also, I have no idea why this movie is called Avalon High because it kind of has nothing to do with the high school they go to, but I guess they just couldn't think of a good title or something. This film follows Allie Pennington as she moves to a new town and starts at a new high school. Her parents are medieval literature professors, and she keeps having dreams that she's a brave knight fighting against a ferocious foe. She runs into a popular guy named Will, played by Greg Sulkin, putting on a very flimsy American accent, who's the lead quarterback of the football team and is just too damn perfect. We learn that every 1,000 years, King Arthur is reincarnated on the day that there's a full moon and a meteor shower at the same time, which happens to be on the same day as the big football game that Will is in. Allie discovers all of this with another person she befriends, a nerdy asshole named Miles, who gets visions of the future, and they all think that Will is said reincarnation of King Arthur. But he actually isn't. Allie is! Their history teacher is the twist villain who is trying to defeat Arthur before they are reincarnated and crowned king, even though they thought that the villain was going to be Will's edgy stepbrother at first. Allie is actually a really fun and enticing main character to follow. She's smart, kind, and generally just a lovable person overall, making us want to root for her success and being happy to find out that she actually is King Arthur. This whole "you're King Arthur" trope in a lot of movies and stuff is honestly so funny to me. It's camp. I love it so much. Allie is just nice to people like Miles, who are originally very rude to her, and she's a good friend to Will even after finding out that he has a girlfriend, when she clearly has a huge crush on him. It's okay though, because Will's girlfriend is cheating on him with his best friend Lance, so their chemistry can come to fruition and they get together at the end. These are all like references to the Knights of the Round Table and Arthurian legends as a whole, by the way. She's just overall really well adjusted and great, and not in an annoyingly perfect way, because that's totally how Will comes across, and how it kind of has to come across that way for the plot to work and for the twist to happen. And the twists themselves actually didn't make my eyes roll, so I appreciate that. This movie, it has the sauce. It has that teen movie sauce that so many movies that I love have, with an interesting and fun cast of main characters that intrigue me to keep watching their dynamics play out. If there was any fear of not having more stories to tell with this series, you literally don't have to worry about that because you can just adapt other Arthurian legends into new movies and have them set in the modern day. Like, adapt The Green Knight or something, I don't know. I was not expecting to like this movie as much as I did. I highly recommend you check it out if you haven't yet and you're a big fan of teen movies.
Hello, Benny and Rory.
Whoa. That is a tornado of weird.
Okay, kids speaking in unison. That's never good.
This movie sucks. It is so bad, y'all. And it breaks my heart to say so, since y'all already know how much I love The Sweet Life on Deck. The Sweet Life movie feels like such a half-baked mess, and it's gonna take a lot within me to not just deconstruct every single little thing wrong with this absolute monstrosity. The Sweet Life movie follows Zach and Cody during spring break of their senior year. Cody is going to do an internship at a marine biology research center during the break so he can get into Yale. And for some reason he hasn't told his girlfriend Bailey yet, so when he finally goes to tell her, Zach ruins it because he's hyper-fixated on getting a sports car that Cody will be gifted by his parents for going off to college after graduation. Zach also ruins his brother's internship as well because of his pestering to get the car. He does feel bad for getting Cody kicked out of his internship, and a pretty girl who works for the Gemini Project has been stalking him so they can recruit the two brothers for their research. So Zach and Cody go to the Gemini Project headquarters, which will act as a replacement internship for Cody so he can have a better chance at getting into Yale. The Gemini Project actually has the goal of combining the brains of twins into one and turning them into mind-controlled robots who will take over the world or something. There's some stupid twin twists, it's all kinda lame. The two learn to bond and understand one another through these experiments and defeat the evil foe at the end. Oh, and Cody gives Zach the car, which he immediately crushes at the end of the movie, and it very anticlimactically ends there. My issues with this film actually have nothing to do with the identical twins' evil plotline, because something this over-the-top and dramatic actually fits in the world pretty well. Like, they've done worse and weirder in the actual show before. The main problem with this movie is the absolutely wretched way the twins' dynamic is portrayed in the initial setup. Zach, while still having his witty comebacks and irreverent attitude, is a buffoonish shell of his former self. He wants Cody's car so he can travel the world and figure out what he's meant to do in life, but his actions are so laughably disconnected from his apparent goal that it seems like they last minute decided to give him a reason for wanting the car because they didn't want to bother trying to think of how his character would actually conduct himself in this movie. And Cody is basically just a cardboard cutout of a nerdy archetype at this point in the story. Plus, it doesn't fit anywhere in the plot of the show at all. There's like 20 contradictions happening at every given point. And the rest of the cast basically have nothing to do in this movie. The tone of this thing is completely off as well. They're trying to go for this whimsical decom energy with the music, cinematography, and the editing, but the characters and writing style are constantly clashing with this direction. If I knew nothing about the Sweet Life series before watching this movie, I'd think Zach and Cody were horribly developed characters with a complete lack of anything interesting present within them or their dynamic, which is the complete exact opposite of how I see them as some of the most important characters in all of Disney Channel history. This makes me so upset. Even though there are redeeming elements of this movie that could give it somewhat of a boost, I'm gonna send it to the bottom among the ranks of Xenon and Tiger Cruise, because it is such a shame to see some of my favorite Disney stars get such a bad movie made for them.
I can either ask you to leave, or I can give you the last slot in the show, and then I can leave. So congratulations.
Musatronics!
This is definitely one of, if not the best, decom of all time. Lemonade Mouth has been pretty unanimously praised and honored as an amazing movie that deserves to be up there in the ranks as some of the best that Disney Channel ever has had to offer. It's definitely one of the most iconic along with their other musical movies like High School Musical and Descendants. So what makes Lemonade Mouth so special? This movie follows 5 misfits with very different lives as they all meet in detention on one fateful day. It's very Breakfast Club coded, which is a movie I've seen like 20 times and I absolutely love. Stella is a rebel new girl who struggles to fit in with the high expectations of her genius parents and siblings. Mohini, aka Mo, is a wannabe popular girl whose Indian immigrant parents expect her to be a model citizen and get good grades and not worry about boys, so of course she has a secret popular guy boyfriend. Charlie does not want to play soccer like his sporty older brother and feels like he's standing in his brother's shadow, plus he has a huge unrequited crush on Mo. Olivia is an extremely shy and bookish girl whose mother's died and whose father is in prison. And Wendell, aka Wen, has a father who's dating a very young woman who attends college and that he's very uncomfortable with. They all break into song during detention and then decide to form a band and then go on to inspire their community to be heard, be strong, and be proud. This is another famous book adaptation in the DCOM catalog, and the more mature and unique elements of the plot come directly from the source material. I'm in a special place when it comes to talking about this movie since not only have I read the book, multiple times might I add, but I first read it when I was the exact age of the main cast. It was my final semester of 8th grade when I read it, and I was about to start high school. So obviously this story is going to be a huge standout for me, but even putting that personal connection to the story aside, there's just so much refreshing and interesting things within the movie itself that makes it stand out as a much higher quality film than the other movies we have on this list. The cinematography is just so good and naturalistic, the colors are vibrant and inviting, but not sinisterly fake looking like they are in Camp Rock 2. And there's honestly a lot of really well-framed shots and camera pans that can evoke effective emotions out of the audience. I don't want to spoil things about the ranking, but this is gonna go high. Like, really, really high in the ranking. Also, I'll probably have more to say on this movie later on in my channel, maybe.
What just happened?
The depths of my pain require more bass.
Ugh, I really don't want to talk about this movie. Sharpay's fabulous adventure has made my life difficult in more ways than one, that's for sure. First of all, since this is a made-for-DVD movie, it looks shitty in a completely different way than all the other shitty DCOMs look shitty. And second, the plot is just so generic and basic that I kind of don't even feel the need to explain it to you. It's so far removed from anything that would be relevant to your life. But I mean, what are we even doing here? Like, what are we even here for? The Wikipedia page calls this movie a rom-com, which is, I think, kind of inaccurate, but strap in for that, I guess. This movie picks up with Sharpay as she's been coasting since graduating from East High. And during a performance that her and her dog gives at her parents' country club, she's spotted by a casting director who wants her to audition for a new musical on Broadway. For some reason, before even going to the audition, she feels the need to move to New York City and is given the condition that if she doesn't book the part in a month, she'll have to work for her parents back at the resort, and essentially give up her dreams of becoming a big star. She makes it to the big city and very quickly realizes that she's a big fish in a massive ocean with even bigger fish surrounding her. And then she's kicked out of her penthouse on the first day because she won't get rid of her precious dog. And I mean that legitly, like this is the best dog in all of history. She meets an annoyingly scrappy and upbeat filmmaker named Peyton, played by Austin Butler, who is a family friend who gets her a tiny studio apartment to live in when it's time for the audition. They obviously fall in love. Ugh, whatever. I just miss Zeke. Once it's time for the audition, she realizes that they want to audition her dog and not her, since the lead role in this dog-themed musical has already gone to a snooty legacy star named Amber Lee Adams. Sharpay works as Amber's assistant and later maid, hoping that this will get her dog picked over the other competitor's dog, Roger Ellison, who is played by Bradley Stephen Perry. Amber hates dogs, actually, and does not want to be co-stars with one, and very foolishly exposes herself as a hater to an audience of her adoring fans during the previews, all because Sharpay turned on her microphone backstage. Amber quits and it seems like the show is going to be cancelled until Peyton, who's been filming a quasi-documentary about Sharpay this whole time, shows some footage of her singing and performing, which convinces the director to hire Sharpay as the lead instead. The whole point of the story is to ground Sharpay and portray her as more human and normal compared to the actually vicious and vain Broadway star she has to work for, by having her run across town fetching coffee for a temperamental diva and scrub toilets. The movie essentially has her atone for her past sins and fully redeem her in the eyes of any viewers who are still seeing Sharpay as a scheming villain. I mean, as long as Troy's out of her life, then I think she's a pretty normal rich girl with aspirations to make it in theater. The movie is fine, it hits all the beats a movie is supposed to and does nothing outside of what it should do as a straight-to-DVD movie. If you're watching all the High School Musical movies, then definitely feel free to watch it. It does somewhat enough for the character of Sharpay to warrant a viewing if you want to know about her story, but that's about the only praise I can give it. So on June 10th, 2010, My Babysitter's a Vampire aired on Disney Channel. I'm actually kind of glad that Mabab is not considered a DCOM, it's actually a Teletoon original, because it would have been number one without a doubt. Like, nothing could have competed with this movie. This is literally my favorite movie of all time, and I would just feel bad having to try and compare it with all the other movies. So yes, I won't be reviewing it here, but watch like my 5 hours total worth of content I've made about this series if you want to know more about it. Phineas and Ferb was always kind of a sleeper hit in my household. My brother really liked it, and I also really enjoyed it, but I didn't really think about it outside of, like, when I was watching it. That, of course, doesn't apply to Phineas and Ferb, the movie, Across the Second Dimension. This thing would never leave my mind after I watched it for the first time. Across the Second Dimension follows an average day in summer for Phineas and Ferb, but things kind of go wrong, and we fall off the beaten path, and Phineas and Ferb end up working with Dr. Doofenshmirtz. They're able to get his dimension portalinator thingy to work, and they end up going to an alternate dimension where Dr. Doofenshmirtz actually did take over the tri-state area. Also, Perry the Platypus, his secret identity has been revealed to Phineas and Ferb. It's honestly so fun and interesting and unique to watch these two characters interact with their pet in this brand new way, because we've always known, obviously, but I don't know, there's just so much drama. It's so fun and engaging. Also, I like the little quirk to know that, like, alternate dimension Dr. Doofenshmirtz had like no background childhood trauma, which is why he's better at being evil, I think. I don't know, there's something really funny there. The songs are really fun. I mean, Phineas and Ferb's music is always pretty good, but I think the songs fit just well and like really work within the movie. And even Candace has a little bit of growth when she realizes that she doesn't need to grow up too fast. After seeing alternate dimension, Candace is like a full-on military grown-up. They get the dimension portal working in the alternate dimension to try and get back. The more evil Dr. Doofenshmirtz wants to take over the other alternate dimension tri-state area as well. So he gets the portal opened, and he then sends out a bunch of his evil robots into our universe tri-state area. So Perry the Platypus, along with the rest of the cast, all work together to defeat this alternate dimension foe. I swear, I almost teared up when I saw all of their old inventions from the past series all coming back to be used again to help defeat the robots. So yeah, this thing is absolutely amazing. I highly recommend you check it out if you haven't yet, even if you've never seen the show before. I think you'll get a pretty good understanding of the flow of things and how the series works and how it subverts these things within the movie. It's just so good, and it makes me really want to rewatch Phineas and Ferb. I might do that soon because, man, this show, it was a treat to revisit. Hi everybody, I got a haircut, and I kinda don't like it. But we're not going to talk about that. We're actually going to talk about decom foods. Here's the thing, I had the idea for this like in a cold sweat, randomly waking up in the middle of the night, and I got like weirdly really into it. So today I thought it would be fun to recreate different foods that are seen throughout different decoms. I've picked 2 from the 3 different parts of the video that I'm going to be doing. So 2 from the Zook era, 2 from the Bounce/Ribbon era, and then 2 from the rest of it, because there's too many eras, you know, all mushed together throughout multiple years. So yes, that's what we're doing today, and I thought I would walk you through my sort of process before we cut to me actually making the recipes. So I actually found it a lot harder to pick like distinct decom foods that I realistically would want to eat and create, because I don't want to just create a bunch of food waste and make a bunch of food that like I'm not gonna want to eat. So first up on the list, we have the breakfast scene from Horse Sense. One thing that really stood out to me about this movie is specifically the breakfast, and that's probably because they eat their breakfast at 4 in the morning, because they live on the farm, and that's when you have to start doing farm work normally. It looks so good, and it is directly put in contrast with Michael's original sort of diet, which is like turkey bacon and green juices and stuff like that. Realistically, parts of this breakfast is like a very similar thing that my dad and I will eat for breakfast when we wake up early enough to make breakfast. So what it seems like is in this breakfast is pancakes, bacon, sausage links, and maybe hash browns. Some of the eggs seem to be flipped and are maybe over easy eggs, but I'm gonna make sunny side up eggs because they look the prettiest. I just realized there's like a big hole right there. Should really put something there. It's kind of a very big breakfast, but I understand that they like are hard laborers, so it makes sense that they would want to eat a lot of food in the morning to really fuel themselves up. But I'm gonna try and stay as true to the scene as possible, which is gonna be a lot of effort for me. Good morning, everybody. Here, let me show the camera the time, because that's the whole reason why we're doing this stupid thing. There you go. Is it focusing?
Good job. Oops, it went out.
You see that?
I do.
It's it's 4 in the morning.
It's 4:26.
It's 4:26 in the morning, and we're making breakfast. Because in the movie Horse Sense, I changed my lock screen. You know, this is the Lawrence brothers. These are the people who star in the movie. I downloaded an image and everything just for the bit. The actual first place we're starting is coffee, because he does drink coffee in the scene, so we're gonna go do that. Have you seen the movie Horse Sense? I'm asking you and the audience. Let me know in the comments below.
I don't remember if it was a long time ago if I did.
I definitely started watching them like an embarrassingly long time ago. Do you want coffee? I know you don't drink coffee, but
yes, I will have a cup of coffee with you.
Put a little bit of salt. Okay, this is my secret. Put a little bit of salt. Okay. Shh! Don't tell anybody. Don't let them know.
It's because of the modern kitchen.
Yes. You have to be real careful when you pour here because the electrical cord is just right there. Okay. That can brew. Oh, I gotta pick our mugs out.
Pick your mug.
I want to show off my
Pick
my
your mug. Any
extensive
mug.
collection. Which one do you... Well, we have to pick Disney ones, right? Once I go to Disneyland. So, we got this one. Here, close to this. Nice rack focus on that.
That'll work.
I'm not a morning person. Get it? Yeah, good one. Radiator Springs.
Very good.
Isn't that pretty cool?
I like it.
Yeah, okay. Did you get him? This boy? Over here?
Say good morning.
Hey, good morning, B-Man. Starting with pancakes, because the batter can sit there while we start everything else. Okay, so we need 2 cups of flour. I'm not a real chef, by the way. Can I just clarify that? Like, I don't, I'm probably gonna mess up a lot.
No, you'll be fine.
Now I need baking powder and baking soda. Should we show them the salt shaker?
We got the vintage Tupperware.
The vintage Tupperware pepper. It's the pepper shaker, but we have salt in it.
Yes.
So there we go.
Good
Y'all are
job.
probably super jealous of our. I'm actually like slowly growing a Tupperware collection, purely just because my grandparents keep just having
it.
and giving it to me. Like my grandma, she gave me a steamer, a vegetable steamer, microwave vegetable steamer that's Tupperware, and I'm like, they must have been high quality if they've stuck around. They're still
For
around.
20 or more than 20 years.
Yeah, well, what, from like the 70s or something? They stopped, when did Tupperware stop existing?
They started in the 70s, I think.
Okay. They definitely look 70s. Like, it doesn't look... Then it could be 80s because all the brown. That was something I learned, is that the 80s was very brown. How are we already out of eggs? We should have bought an 18-pack. Because I'm using 2 eggs. And then I gotta fry an egg too. That's what I forgot to say in the beginning. We're having sunny side up eggs as well. So I guess we're only getting 1 egg each. Because I gotta put 2 in here.
That's the way it goes.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Oh well. Should have bought an 18-pack now that I think about it. I didn't think I was gonna be devouring the eggs in the few days between us grocery shopping and doing this now.
That's true.
Plus, we had to put another mortgage on the house just to get those eggs. So I'm trying to be
Nowadays.
topical. I'm trying to be topical.
Nowadays.
My horrible topical humor. Some say that it's gonna kill you eventually. Canola oil.
Why would that be happening?
I don't know. There's something.
Thought it was good.
Me too. Should today be the day I try my one hand egg crack?
Okay.
Was that good?
You did it.
Was that good? Can you get a close up on there? Any shell?
No shells.
No shell? That's amazing. I'm working on that. That's something I'm working on. Okay, let's see another one. Wow, look at that.
There you go. Good job.
Awesome, thank you. And I'm not gonna pour it all in at once. I'm gonna slowly pour it in. Yeah, my favorite thing about hyperanalyzing all of these scenes is that if they do have liquid in a cup, they don't touch the cup. It just sits there on the table. And if they are holding a cup, there's no liquid in it. And in the food, they don't actually eat it. They don't actually eat the food. They just like poke around at it.
That's right.
And then they all get up and leave. We don't have creamer. I usually don't drink coffee with milk in it. Remember you had said at the store, you need heavy cream, and I said no?
We did.
Could have gotten some heavy cream. That's okay. We have whole milk. Whole milk is still pretty good. We're gonna see how this works. Things are gonna get a bit cramped here. Okay, you ready? Ready to capture this flip? Was not ready for flip. It's too light in color.
Close. Just...
He always has to do this. He has to sit right where I'm supposed to be. Oh, my sweet dude. You getting this?
He's right there.
You getting this, cameraman?
Yes.
Yeah, oh yeah, sit down, lay down. Yeah, you're all comfortable.
What's my name? Not Benny, it's the other guy. On iCarly.
Freddie. You're Freddie Benson?
Freddie B.
Freddie B. Benson. Yes, that's his name.
Forget Carly B, I'm Freddie B.
This is an absolute monument to decoms, this stack of pancakes.
Story house, colonial, right?
Two-story house, colonial,
We
cow
were
farm.
upstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cracked it down. There's the dad, and the dad was rough like him. Boys, time to get up. Yes, sir. Scared, you know.
Yeah.
Get up, throw on your clothes. Go to the bathroom real quick, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Then you go downstairs and
Yep, the whole
it
spread.
had everything. It had bacon, eggs,
Yeah.
pancakes, orange juice, milk.
So what you're
And it was
saying?
like,
So what you're saying is the scene in Horse Sense is very accurate to an
very
actual
accurate.
farm
Very
life.
accurate. Absolutely, 100%. I lived it myself. That's one memory I cherish.
Yes.
That was something else. And
Uh-huh.
it was early.
It was like
Early,
this.
6
Sun,
a.m.
sun's rising now. Here, let me
6
show you.
a.m. And we were eating.
Look at that. So I want you to give me your score, your rating.
1 to 5.
Yes, 1 to 5.
Guess it would have to be a 4 or stuff.
Okay. Did I do
Almost
okay?
Give you a 3,
What? What would a 3 have been for?
but 3 plus.
3 plus.
She's like a substitute babe?
Dude, sweet. No, not sweet. Jeez, could you be less of a geek for once?
Okay, so I've already made a video about Geek Charming, and it's over an hour long, so do I really need to talk about this movie more on this channel? The answer is both yes and no. I'm gonna try and keep this review shorter than my average ones, but also there are new things I want to add to the conversation. I mainly reviewed the Geek Charming book and compared it to the movie, because I think there was a very amount of interesting adaptational changes, but I wouldn't have done that if I didn't like the movie already, because I do. Geek Charming is another amazing standout for me in this era. Geek Charming is an actual rom-com where a nerdy filmmaker guy wants to make a documentary about a popular girl. It's your classic enemies to lovers arc, and I actually think it is very satisfying and a very fun and engaging watch. Some things I should have mentioned in my previous video were that, first of all, the soundtrack slaps. I don't know what genius who works at Disney Channel decided to put Doves as the soundtrack in one of their decoms, but that was a genius move. I applaud it. Same thing to the guy who was putting Fastball in all of the old Zoog decoms. Shout out to you as well. So yeah, overall, I just really enjoy Geek Charming. There are some more cliche and kind of silly elements, but overall, I felt a real energy that, like, Disney Channel wanted to take their decoms seriously. I feel like there are many different lessons learned by the decom people with the success of High School Musical. One lesson was we should be taking more of a naturalistic yet also cinematic approach to our movies. Picking one specific element of a relationship to focus on and really just digging deep into that, while still feeling true to life and not overdramatic or melodramatic. One of the worst lessons, which is we're gonna see be like the main decom mode going forward, spectacle. Stuff that'll work really, really well as YouTube clips, and as a full movie, you know, we'll stitch things together in post. That's really what I'm thinking about nowadays, now that I'm watching this movie within the context of all of the decoms as a whole.
It's ectoplasm, the physical manifestation of paranormal energy. Cool.
Okay, Good Luck Charlie, It's Christmas is a certified Christmas movie classic in my household. I watched it like 3 times last year, which I did not mean to do. The first time was because I was watching all of Good Luck Charlie, and this was in between seasons 2 and 3. That was in like June or something. The second time was for this watch through, which is in around like December, Thanksgiving time, and I feel like that was a fun time to watch Christmas movies in. I don't care what y'all say, I love watching Christmas movies during Thanksgiving time. And then the final time was actually during Christmas time. I think on Christmas Eve specifically, I had my aunt over and later my dad got off of work and we were just watching a bunch of Christmas movies together, and that one just fit right in with the rest of them. And yeah, I think it really faithfully sticks to the Good Luck Charlie energy and aura while also being higher in scale. And I also think making it a Christmas movie was a really smart decision because to a certain degree, it like justifies its existence. Good Luck Charlie as a TV show is essentially plotless, and it also doesn't have a unique pitch or setting. I mean, famously, the fact that it's just a normal basic family sitcom was the unique pitch for the time. I have a whole discussion of this in my Good Luck Charlie video, which I'm like side scripting while I'm working on this one. The plot is that the Duncan family are going to Palm Springs to visit the mother, Amy's family, who live there now. But of course, Teddy being Teddy, she really wants to go to a spring break Florida trip with Ivy, but her parents won't let her go unless she gets her own plane ticket. And when the plane offers a free ticket to anywhere for anyone who's willing to get off the plane right at that moment while they're leaving for vacation, she does, and Amy ends up following her. And since it's only like 3 days until Christmas, they cannot get another plane to Palm Springs in time. So they have to take various different treacherous modes of transportation to try and get to their family by Christmas time. They bicker and fight and learn to understand each other more as mother and daughter. And eventually we learn that Amy is pregnant again, which is another reason for justifying this movie's existence. Which I think seems to be a large problem for a lot of these TV shows that get a DCOM. So yeah, eventually the family all meet up in the middle of bumfuck nowhere in either Nevada or California, I can't quite remember. And they all spend a wonderful yet kooky Christmas together. This core value of like family first, no matter the awkward, non-picturesque circumstance, is kind of like a main theme of Good Luck Charlie, and it's nice to see that the creators really wanted to reflect this in a fun way with the movie. So yeah, overall a really great movie. I feel like we're in an awesome streak of films right now. I hope that doesn't change.
He looks like a prison hairdresser.
Yeah, serious mullet fail.
Is it just me? Or is Frenemies just 3 different decom plots that they couldn't feasibly stretch into an entire movie, so they just squished them all into one really bad, directionless film? Because that's how I perceive it. I almost don't even have the energy to try and recap all of this mush of 3 interchanging plots, with the vague and loose connection being that each story follows a duo going from quote-unquote friends to enemies. The sort of main characters, who are the narrators, are played by Bella Thorne and Zendaya, and they're basically playing their characters from Shake It Up. This is not an issue we normally run into the DCOMs, and you would know this because we're in like the 80s right now. Just the exact same actors playing the exact same characters, just with slightly different names and in slightly different settings. Like, Stephanie Scott from Ant Farm is in this movie, but she's literally just playing her character from Ant Farm, like down to a T almost. I guess we'll start with the plotline that she's in first. The first, like, third of the movie follows the characters of Jake and Murray. The character of Jake is the science whiz who is played by Nick Robinson, who is the guy from Love, Simon, by the way. And this popular girl named Julianne, who is played by Stephanie Scott, tries to basically become the girlfriend of Jake, just so she can get a good science project out of them being partners together. And Jake has this extremely loyal and well-trained dog named Murray, who is basically his best friend. The next story we follow is with Avalon and Hallie, who are played by Bella Thorne and Zendaya respectively. They run a webazine called Geekly Chic. Back in my day, we just called this a blog. And they learned that one of their favorite magazines, Burns Publications, wants to buy their blog and turn it into their brand new hip teen magazine. But the magazine only wants to hire one of the two, so they both have to write an article pitch, and whichever one is better will get picked to work at the magazine, and the other will just have to leave Geekly Chic forever. So they end up both writing the article together and say that if they don't want them as a team, then they're gonna walk. So they end up walking. Finally, we have the characters of Savannah and Emma. It is literally just The Princess and the Pauper. You know what the plot of The Princess and the Pauper is. Two random identical women meet. One is rich, one is poor. They live different lives, they swap for a week, they bicker. I guess somewhat interestingly is that Savannah is the skateboarder girl in Jake's story, so like her love interest is Jake, so he's like kind of tied into the rest of the story. And Emma's boyfriend is like this preppy douchebag, and he ends up getting kicked to the curb and thrown into a chocolate fountain. Remember when chocolate fountains were all the rage? I miss those things. This movie is so bad, it literally ends with a dance sequence instead of a real conclusion. That's like the most famously generic and lazy way to end a kid's movie. It's so embarrassing. This is actually the first DCOM I'm outright going to call lazy. While other DCOMs have been bad or boring, I can truthfully say that they all seem to have some time or care put into them as films. But this one just has none of that care or effort at all. I don't even know where I'm gonna put this thing because it's bad, but it's not like that infuriatingly bad. So it's probably just gonna end up in like the middle bottom tier, like truly just nothing special here at all.
Yeah, buddy, Whitechapel High, this ain't no lie. Monster Bat Morning Meltdown, don't even ask why.
Chia! Intramural volleyball begins at 4 o'clock today.
What more can I even say about Radio Rebel on this channel? I made a really long video on Radio Rebel on my channel already, so feel free to check that out if you're interested. But for an extremely brief recap of everything there, it's a great movie and y'all are just mean. The movie follows Tara Adams, an extremely shy individual who is secretly the biggest radio show host in all of her small town. Radio Rebel goes from being in her bedroom to being at a local radio station, and she must navigate her life as she grows more confident in herself, and how her and her radio personality intersect with each other. The entire soundtrack slaps so goddamn hard. And yes, it is extremely cheesy and the ending is really bad, but once you understand why the ending ended up being the way it is, it's actually a very fascinating story. Again, I go into much more detail in my 80-minute video on Radio Rebel, but essentially this is supposed to be an adaptation of the book Shrinking Violet, but it is actually secretly an adaptation of the movie Pump Up the Volume. Both endings of both of those pieces of media are not safe for Disney Channel. The ending for Shrinking Violet maybe could make sense, but there's basically nothing of that plot in this movie. They basically only took the names, and that's it. So they had to come up with an ending from scratch, and clearly it was not that well thought out. But again, even though this may be seen as a really bad movie and you think it's really cheesy and lame, like it still has more effort and time put into it than some of the other DCOMs we've talked about on this list, literally the previous one we just talked about. So I think movies like this deserve some credit, even if they're not masterpieces or anything. I still think Radio Rebel is a masterpiece though, don't get that wrong. For some reason, this became one of my comfort movies. I literally would watch it multiple times within the span of a month, just because it provides me with such warmth. I don't know. There's some parasocial relationship I have with this film that many other people don't, and that causes me to be a lot more nicer to it. I understand my bias there. Also, Debbie Ryan is just like one of my favorite Disney Channel stars. I think she's great. So yeah, I really love Radio Rebel, and I recommend you check it out. How does me possibly putting Radio Rebel in my top 10 make you feel?
Come on, grab your backpack. You and I are going to church. What?
So, Let It Shine is such an interesting film that I feel like would be difficult for me personally to talk about. It's a really great movie, let me just say that right away. I think it is one of the best DCOMs of this era specifically. Let It Shine follows Cyrus and his Baptist pastor father, Jacob. Cyrus is the choir director for his church, and his father is against that evil devil music that is rap and hip-hop. What he doesn't know is that at night, his son sneaks out to a local hip-hop club to bust tables, and he writes said evil devil rap music under the rap name Truth. No offense to this movie, but the rap name Truth is so lame. Sorry. It makes sense because this movie is essentially a conscious rap propaganda movie made by Disney Channel. Cyrus and his friend Chris, who is a better dancer than he is a rapper, they both submit to a song contest that is being hosted by one of their childhood friends named Roxy. She's become the next big thing and is constantly on magazine covers and taking interviews on the television. So she hosts this song contest, and Truth submits his song, and he ends up winning. The problem is that he accidentally submitted a photo of him and his buddy Chris, so now they think that the contest winner was actually Chris and not Cyrus. To be fair, Chris is like the main focus of the photo, and Cyrus is just like in the background, so obviously they would do this mix-up. But Cyrus is not super confident in his looks and his appearance and who he is as a person, so he feels the need to keep on with the lie and let them believe that Chris is actually Truth. And Cyrus's pastor father eventually has to realize that hip-hop is not the devil's work. After listening to his son's rap lyrics, he realizes that he talks about faith and honesty and good wholesome fun in his lyrics, because of course this is a DCOM. Chris and Cyrus get in a fight, and then once they make up, they finally decide to reveal the truth to Roxy. Very dramatically, might I add. It's during their first performance of a duet song that they wrote. Also, one of my favorite Disney Channel actors, Brandon Michael Smith, is in this, and he plays like an evil, shallow rapper named Bling. There's definitely some stuff to unpack when it comes to the idea of like excellence and how hip-hop that, is seen as shallow or materialistic is inherently bad. And also, famously, I'm not a big fan of religious elements in my DCOMs, but I feel like the movie is good despite all of those really complicated and complex topics that I don't have the time to talk about in this one singular review. But overall, I really enjoy it, and it's a fun movie. You can tell the difference between the good DCOMs and the bad DCOMs at this point. They're really starting to divide like the Red Sea. Yeah, I highly recommend you watch this thing if you haven't yet. It's a really good watch. Check it out. Next up, we have the hot dog dinner from Stepsister from Planet Weird. I felt like I was kind of scraping at the bottom of the barrel to try and find good Zoog-era foods to come up with. Because when I think of early DCOM foods, I don't really think about a lot of Zoog movies. But it's very possible that that whole era of the Disney Channel original movies are just complete blanks in my mind because it's been so long since I watched them. I immediately wanted to make some sort of food from Xenon, but I couldn't think or find any good foods that they eat throughout the movies. At least anything specifically futuristic sounding from as far as I remember. So to kind of speak to the alien weirdness that was going on in a lot of the Zoog era movies, I've picked Stepsister from Planet Weird. I specifically also picked this one because I thought it was going to be a really gross food. I was confusing two different scenes from the movie because famously that movie really jumps around in timeline and it really tells you the story in a more convoluted, I don't want to say avant-garde, but just weird way. So there's the famous opening dinner scene where Megan and her family meets Cosmo and Ariel for the first time. And it's the dinner scene where they announce the fact that they're engaged to their children. And the beginning of the movie, we follow a day in Megan's life essentially. But during that dinner scene, as soon as we're physically introduced to Ariel, we cut back and in a slightly shorter montage, we get the whole first part of the movie, but from her perspective. And in that moment, we see that Cosmo is eating a bowl of cereal where he's using some sort of cola or maybe root beer as the liquid instead of milk. It's clearly Captain Crunch or something, and he's just eating it. And for some reason, I crossed that meal that he eats with the meal that they actually all share together. For some reason, I thought that he was pouring Coca-Cola and putting cereal on this hot dog. But that doesn't happen. Right? Just the scenes have nothing to do with each other and are weeks apart in the actual narrative of the story. But they're smushed right next to each other in the film for some odd reason. So that was causing my misremembering to happen. The actual hot dog dinner scene is a little bit more normal. For dinner, we see them eating hot dogs on hot dog buns, and there's ketchup and mustard on the table to be used, but none of them are using it. It's possible that Megan and her mom are using it, but anyways. For sides, they have baked beans and I think is supposed to be coleslaw, but it just seems to be the raw slaw with no dressing on it, which is kind of weird. Along with potato chips, and Cosmo just kind of loads all of these things onto the hot dog and then just starts going to town with it. And that actually doesn't sound that bad. A hot dog with baked beans, coleslaw, and potato chips on it, I can deal with that. I also controversially don't really like baked beans that much. I'm sorry. I have a slightly more mature palate nowadays, and I'm fine with baked beans. I just don't go out of my way to eat them. Welcome to later today. I took a very long nap. One might not even call it a nap. And just going back to sleep. I took a shower, you can tell because I'm wearing a new shirt. In the meal where the mother's kids meet her boyfriend and now fiance for the first time, this is the meal they eat, and it doesn't go over pretty well. One thing I realized is that the potato chips, I should have saved some potato chips. I forgot there were potato chips in this, but we can just use corn chips. It's like, whatever, you know. I lit this candle because I opened up the bag of cabbage and it was interesting smelling. It was still good and, you know, like not spoiled or anything, but yeah, still. So that's gonna be some nice ambient lighting on the side here. Boiling hot dogs and hot dog water. These are all heated up and I put the heat on low. Delicious. One thing I also just noticed now when I went to go rewatch the scene is that they have corn. Corn is also something they have. And I completely forgot about it, so we're gonna quickly heat up some corn. Oh wait, this is creamed corn. Do I not read the labels? This says creamed corn. It's not right. It's not right. Okay, emergency backup. I have some corn on the cob that I can just slice off and microwave. That's usually what I do when I'm cooking anyways. I'm just microwaving the corn, but yeah, we're just gonna do this as a backup. Let me blow this out. Okay. So, do you want the Cosmo special? That's the name of the guy. Or do you want it how it was probably made to be, you know, assembled?
The way it's supposed to be?
Yeah, okay, that's probably for the best. Oh, I hate these buns. Can I just complain on camera, please?
I guess.
I hate these buns.
They cut it wrong.
They cut it wrong. Look at that.
It's all thick on one side. I hate that.
And then it tears. Ugh. So I have some just plain raw cabbage mix because that's what they use their hands and it's not messy, so it's clearly just like loose cabbage, like coleslaw mix. And I'm like, is that a thing that people eat? Just like, no? Okay.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, well, I made with the rest of it. I made some actual coleslaw. So
Okay.
so that's what you're gonna have.
Okay.
It's actual coleslaw. Boop. Here we go. What a beauty. Now it's time to make my monstrosity, okay? We have baked beans. And they go on the hot dog. Then we have the corn. Okay? And then we have the raw coleslaw mix. Just dry cabbage and shredded carrots. Shredded cabbage and carrots. And then, to top it all off, some potato chips, which we don't have, so we're using corn chips, but it'll still give off the proper energy. So there we go. There's the Cosmo special. Okay. Oh God. I'm actually picking it up. I didn't think I'd get this far. Okay. I love human food. I think I mostly got bread. It just tastes like bread. I'm gonna go in for seconds. I will say, there's a lot of texture. There's crunchy bits, there's soft bits, you know. It's very sweet. The baked beans is the most dominant flavor. It's like sugary. I don't really taste hot dog. I mainly just taste hot dog bun, baked beans, and then crunchy tortilla chips. So what I recommend you make this, maybe the first way, yeah. This way,
Not so much.
give or take.
Let's do this. Yeah, time to kick some intergalactic butt. Don't you mean vampire butt?
Okay, I think Girl vs. Monster won me over at the end of the day. I'll be honest, I came into this movie a bit biased. Back when it first came out, I think it was pretty quickly added to Netflix, and I tried to watch it with somebody, and I gave up after like the first 15 minutes. I thought this thing was just abhorred. And I literally hadn't seen it since. I never watched it when it first aired, and that was my only experience with it, so I was genuinely afraid that this thing was going to be slop. But actually, I was surprised to see that it wasn't that bad. Girl vs. Monster follows Olivia Holt as Skylar, who is a 5th-generation monster hunter. She doesn't know this, however, because she's only 15, and this all gets revealed to her when she's 16, and the ghost containment unit that her parents keep under wraps accidentally broke and exploded, and so now all of these monsters are being let loose on Halloween night. Apparently every person in this universe has a fear monster that feeds on the fear of the individual, and Skylar's fear monster is an old immortal one that transfers from person to person. But her parents were able to capture this being and trap it in the ghost containment unit, which means that Skylar had literally no fear, because the thing that would cause her fear was trapped away in a box for her whole life. But now that it's set free, she gets 15 years worth of fear all loaded onto her at once. Her and her 2 scaredy cat besties have to work together to try and capture all of these monsters. Meanwhile, she has a Halloween party to attend to and a Disney ingenue boy band that she has to sing for. I don't know if y'all remember Luke Benward from Minutemen, but he's in this movie again, and I swear he's like 2 times the size he was originally. Also, I did not know he was a singer. He's actually doing a really good singing job here. And I already knew Olivia Holt was an amazing singer. The music in this thing, it is so good. I was not expecting to love literally every single song that was in this movie, but they're all so amazing. Eventually, they're able to defeat this ancient spirit that Skylar has been attached to, and she understands the importance of fear and to not be afraid of fear, which is a cute sentiment. This is a classic cheesy DCOM that I think, does exactly what it's supposed to do. Famously, I love Halloween DCOMs, and this one is up there as one of the good ones. I feel like it was wrong of me to assume that this movie was worse than the films like Halloween Town, just because it came out when I was an edgy teenager. Like, it's a good watch, and I'd recommend it during Halloween time if you're interested.
Less talking, more dancing.
Come on, guys, we promise.
Party at the disco beach.
Y'all, this is a big deal. We're finally going to talk about Teen Beach Movie. This movie is famously the only DCOM to come out in 2013, which is absolutely wild. It's also the final DCOM I ever watched air live on TV. I have never seen any of the films after this up to this point. So we really are going to be entering uncharted waters going forward. I feel like the premise of this movie is just so genius, and it is executed so amazingly. Teen Beach Movie follows Ross Lynch and Maya Mitchell as Brady and Mac, respectively. They love surfing with each other in Hawaii, but Mac learns that she has to move away to go to a prep school that she does not want to go to. So on her final day at the beach, she tries to do one more gnarly surf, but there ends up being bad weather, and Brady goes into the water to save her. They both go under, and when we fade back up, everything's different. Brady and Mac's grandfather are both really into this movie called Wet Side Story. It's like 10 different layers of references, this title, because Wet Side Story is a play on the title West Side Story, which is itself an adaptation of Romeo and Juliet. So it's a 1960s beach movie version of an adaptation of an adaptation. So this whole movie is essentially going to be them lovingly poking fun at the 1960s era beach movie genre. And that's because Mac and Brady end up inside Wet Side Story. So Mac and Brady have to try and go through the plot of the movie to eventually escape and go back to their real world, but they accidentally end up messing up the plot and derailing everything because of their presence. The soundtrack to this thing? Absolutely stellar. I was not expecting literally every movie soundtrack from this era to be so good. They really do hit the mark on the things that they're homaging, and the choreography especially, so good. Ross Lynch is an amazing performer in general, like you can tell he's a very talented dancer. And so is Maya Mitchell. This was such a fun watch. I literally was like leaping and screaming with joy watching this again for the first time in over a decade. Also, I had no idea that there was a sequel until like very recently, so I love this franchise and I can't wait to see what they do next with it.
And then I got the puck and totally ollied for a goal.
Dude, you haven't even touched the ice yet. And I'm pretty sure ollie's a skateboarding term.
Is it bad to say that I hadn't even heard of Cloud9 until I started working on this video? Even if I hadn't seen the next 10 or so movies before, I at least recognized the titles from when I would occasionally check Disney Channel out to see if I was missing anything. It also seems like we haven't gotten a sports movie in a long time. I know that Den Brother was like 15 movies ago or something, but this is a full-on sports movie, not one where like sports is an element of the plot. Also, what the heck, Luke Benward is in this again? I did not know he was like such a Disney ingenue boy at the time. Cloud 9 follows Dove Cameron as Kyla Morgan, who lives in Summit Valley, Colorado, specifically at a lodge that her father owns. Kayla is an average snowboarder, but she's ended up on the best snowboard team in the whole town. This is because her dad bought her way in, and she's completely unaware of the fact that she's actually not that good. This is until her boyfriend's father, who is the coach, decides to kick her off the team, but in a very subtle way that, wouldn't keep the cash flow from coming in from her parents. So her boyfriend, who is the coach's son, frames her as destroying property, which means that they have a reason to kick her off the team. Oh, and also her boyfriend breaks up with her. Some of the property she destroys is owned by Will Cloud, who was the best snowboarder in the whole town before he suffered an injury. He failed to perform a move he created called the Cloud 9. So now he works at his family's dog kennel, and everyone just laughs at him and sees him as a sad loser now. Kayla has to work at the dog kennel to pay back the property that she destroyed, and the two of them grow close. They kind of have an enemies to lovers thing going. He's the only one willing to be honest with her about her sucky snowboarding performance, and she agrees that she'll fix up the dog kennel to get more business because their business isn't really working all that well, in exchange for him teaching her to be a better snowboarder. Will has all of this trauma surrounding his injury, and so he hasn't snowboarded in like over a year, but he regains his confidence to get back out on the snow, and eventually they form their own team with two of Will's friends. They all gear up to compete at the Fire and Ice snowboarding competition. Kayla wants Will to teach her the coveted Cloud 9 snowboard move, but he refuses to because he doesn't want to see her get hurt. She eventually is able to do it at the Fire and Ice snowboarding competition, and their team wins. I'm trying to be nice here because I didn't mind this movie all that much. I think snowboarding is an interesting sport, but if there's one thing I could say to describe this movie, it would be a checklist film. It's hitting all of the beats that it should. It's going through the checklist of things that are supposed to happen in a film. The plot just kind of feels a bit clunky, and the characters just kind of do things because they have to for that moment in the movie to happen. It really just doesn't feel like it's a naturally flowing story. So overall, I think Cloud 9 is a fine movie. If you're really into snowboarding, I bet it's going to be a fun watch. I think Dove Cameron does a good job of being this, preppy, rich girl. I mean, she's basically doing her whole Liv and Maddie shtick in this, but, it's an okay film. So we have officially gone back around to talking about points in time that I do not remember whatsoever. So this is going to play out in the same way that the Zoog era did, where I described to you things that I didn't experience but attempted to do a lot of research on. The problem going forwards is that people aren't really documenting this stuff all that well, since Disney Channel really did start to drop in viewership around this time, with smartphones and social media drastically growing in popularity with their main audience. A lot of these movies are going to be them playing catch-up with culture instead of creating it from the get-go. This had already been the case for a few years now up to this point, but these next films are really going to highlight that further. There's still some really popular and well-known movies in this era for sure, but the viewership on average takes a nosedive going forwards. So why call this the Glass Era, also known as the Family Era? That's because there were two different types of bumpers that would play. One was where the brand new Disney Channel logo, which no longer had the mouse ears, would float through different well-known landscapes and just kind of exist in the natural world. And I guess the Disney Channel logo kind of looks like a big block of glass. I don't know. The other different types of ads were essentially just stock footage of families doing random adventures, either sitting in front of a couch or out at the beach. It's actually very hard to find video footage of this because it is so bland and generic that most people didn't really, screen record it. It's all just very bland and not that interesting visually. There isn't really that much of a distinct visual identity with the Glass Era, in my opinion, other than the fact that there is nature, and the brand new Disney Channel logo is at least interesting thing to note. I'm not quite sure why the famous unique mouse ears were eventually done away with. they've now been replaced with the classic Disney logo, which is the name Disney written in Walt Disney's handwriting style, with an awkward chalkboard style font at the bottom using the word channel. It really looks like that they took the normal Disney logo and then just like drew in crayon the word channel under it. Something that we need to acknowledge with the fact that we're in the year 2014 currently is that the only people really watching television, like network television at this point, are the very young and the very old. This is something that's more anecdotal. I don't have direct charts or research on this, but in my own personal experience, it seemed like the only people who were watching channels like the Disney Channel were kids that weren't old enough to have smartphones yet, or full access to the family computer or iPad. So essentially, these networks were stuck with the task of babysitting, which to a certain degree they always had been, but I would argue that they're no longer creating culture because the culture has left them behind. Also, barely any DCOMs are coming out during these eras anymore. While more movies came out during the rounded square era than they did in the ribbon era, with 16 coming out in the previous era, there are only 7 movies that came out during the glass era, which is a little bit over half of what the previous one is. And hate to spoil it for you, but that's gonna be cut in half again. Also, I would argue the most notable thing about the glass era is the fact that they changed the wand ID. My theories as to why the mouse ears went away is this reason, because the wand IDs just like did not look good in 16:9, and by 2014, basically nobody had a CRT TV anymore. I mean, I did, and I still do, but that's besides the point. That's because I'm a freak weirdo. Now, instead of the wand IDs being with a white background, they were placed in a generic nature setting. Again, there's that theme of nature coming back again. And all of the stars were holding like this thin wooden wizard wand instead of the glow stick. Also, they're drawing like the little mouse ears that have been put on the eye of the Disney logo. So they're not doing like the full motion that they were in the past. They're basically just drawing an M. I don't think that these look all that good. I feel like they look kind of awkward and weirdly centered still, even though they're in 16:9 now. I would argue that they just don't have the same kind of visual iconography as the white background and the glow stick and the old Disney Channel logo. But I understand there wasn't really much they could do. Like, again, times had changed and they were being left behind, so they had to adapt. And being forced to adapt is how I would describe the plots of pretty much all of the next movies we're going to be talking about. So let's get into that.
What is that you? Oh, Puffles?
Yeah, that's him. Kinda.
Okay, Zapped might be one of the lesser DCOMs. So I never even heard that Cloud9 had happened, so Zapped was the first movie after Teen Beach Movie that I had heard about existing as a DCOM, and I just remember seeing the trailer on Disney Channel and thinking, wow, that looks like a bad movie, and then I proceeded to never watch anything on the Disney Channel ever again. Which is a shame because I really like Zendaya, and it would have been nice for her to get like a good proper DCOM. Zapped follows Zendaya's character, Zoe Stevens, as her mother has just remarried to a very loud basketball coach man who has 3 sons. She becomes very overwhelmed with this new transition in her life and starting a new high school, and she just finds that all of the boys surrounding her are just not behaving the way that she would like them to behave. She's also, like, addicted to her smartphone and apps. This was back when that was, like, a novel thing. Basically, she downloads apps, like, every other day, and she's constantly looking at her phone. She downloads this app that's supposed to help her control the family dog because he tore up all of her precious items. But through some shenanigans, it ends up going into, like, the dog food bowl and getting struck with lightning and all this stuff, and now the app can control boys. I mean, by this point, y'all probably already know my stance on this. I've already got comments from people calling me woke, which is hilarious, and this is clearly supposed to be DCOM's take on the battle of the sexes, but clearly in the universe of Zapped, gender is not a spectrum like how it is in our real world. So Zoe just goes around commanding all of the men in her life to do things that she wants to do, but she's not, like, really that specific about it, so everyone ends up acting kind of wackadoodle because of it. Also, there's this mean girl Taylor who's on the dance team, and Zoe's a really good dancer because she's played by Zendaya, and Taylor's ex-boyfriend Jackson ends up taking a shine to Zoe. And they try to go on a date, but things are very awkward, and she almost debates even possibly using the app on him. She eventually does and tells him to kiss her, and oh, it's so awkward. I will say Spencer Boulderman did a good job in this movie. Like, he wears sunglasses indoors and reads To Kill a Mockingbird. Yeah, this movie's kind of bad. I understand it's supposed to tell the story of a girl who feels like her life is going out of control. So once she's given power to control one thing in her life, she goes a bit power crazy with it. It's kind of bad, but in a very generic way. Like, I don't even want to put it at the bottom of the list because it's not interesting enough to go at the bottom of the list, which I think is the worst thing a DCOM can be.
You wanna play? Fine, let's play.
I swear, I know for a fact that I did talk about the next two movies already, but for some reason I just cannot find the audio anywhere. So I'm here re-recording it in the middle of the night. I'm sorry if I'm a little bit low energy. How to Build a Better Boy stars China Anne McClain as Gabby and Kelly Berglund as May. They're two super geniuses who are supposed to be sophomores but are actually seniors. May is a bit of a romantic who moves to the world thinking that even though she's very different than all the other kids at school, that maybe Noah Centineo has a crush on her. The character's name is Jaden, and he's a football player who gets tutoring from her, whereas Gabby is more of a realist who sees everyone as below and beneath her because of her smarts and how she's going to achieve so much more than anyone else. May embarrasses herself in front of popular girl Nevaeh, played by Ashley Argata, claiming that she has a boyfriend to seem cool and one-up her in a fight, but she actually doesn't, so they have to invent a boy. One could even say, build a better one. It's funny because this movie is actually like a subtle True Jackson VP reunion because Matt Shively is Bart, who is May's older brother, and he has a huge crush on Gabby. It's just a tad bit strange because China Anne McClain looks way younger than Matt Shively, but maybe they're close in age. I don't know, I haven't looked it up yet. So Gabby, with her extreme capability, decides to hack into May's father's equipment. They think that he just builds video games and that they can hack into his video game avatar creator and create her a boyfriend just for fun. But he actually works for the US government and is designing a robot soldier, and they accidentally create one from the comfort of their own bedroom. May falls in love immediately, before this hunk of plastic even gets its rubber face on. So once the X-17, also known as Albert Banks, makes it into the real world, and starts romantically fawning over her at every given moment, that's when this whole plot ends up getting revealed to our main characters. May is still in love with this robot even after she finds out that he's actually a robot, and she has to learn to accept the fact that, like, she should really be dating a human instead of him. Also, Noah Centineo liked her the whole time, but Gabby kind of talked her down by saying, oh, he doesn't actually like you, he's just using you, because to a certain degree, she was jealous of the fact that she might lose her best friend. Good to know that Noah Centineo got his start as a block of cheese ingenue boy on the Disney Channel, right where I definitely expected him to be. Also, maybe it's just me, but the actors seem to be playing into the archetypes they've been set up in their respective TV shows, Ant Farm and Lab Rats, respectively, which is kind of annoying and something I wish they did not keep doing. Overall, How to Build a Better Boy is very basic and boring. I don't recommend you watch it. It kind of aged weirdly, it's really funky, and you don't really need it in your life. Next, for dinner, we have the fundraiser scene from Gotta Kick It Up. I forgot to mention this in the review, I think, but yeah, they have to fundraise money for their final competition, and so they do car washing, they sell drinks, and they sell food, along with like piñatas, I think, too. Jury's still out on whether I'm going to actually buy a piñata for this section of the video or not. I thought this block party food looked so damn good, and I was very interested and excited about it, until I went back to get footage for it, and I realized that, like, they barely show any food in this scene. I feel like I really romanticized the idea of them selling, like, all of this street food to raise money for their dance competition, when it really all we see is, like, a little bit of, like, grilled chicken be placed on a plate. I mean, that chicken still looks damn good, so I'm gonna recreate it, but, you know. As for the chicken in Gotta Kick It Up, it seems like it's a very, like, dark marinated chicken that's been grilled, so I'm gonna go for, like, a street food Mexican grilled chicken kind of thing. Usually this type of chicken has, like, cinnamon and cloves in it, along with chili and all that stuff, and I think that's gonna be really good. I've always wanted to try this sort of street food. And then I'm probably gonna make some other sides to make it a full meal, but, like, they're not gonna technically be included in the actual review or whatever. Oh, and also one more other thing, now that I'm sitting here recording this, I was thinking I would love to share these recipes with you guys to enjoy and appreciate. And then I was thinking, hey, don't all these people on the internet, aren't they all making like Substack accounts these days? Should I create a Substack to put all my decom food recipes on? And then I went, no, I already have a Tumblr. I'll just create a Tumblr side blog. Aren't those the same thing? So yes, I made a Tumblr decom foods blog. I hope you all go and check it out if you want these recipes. And if people really are excited about this, maybe I'll do more decom recipes. I've been trying to utilize the whole YouTube Shorts thing because apparently that's what we're all doing these days, is making YouTube Shorts. So maybe that'll be a good little area where I can make decom foods and then, you know, put the recipes online for y'all to check out. And who knows, maybe I'll do more with it in the future. So yeah, check out the Decom Foods Tumblr page. Hello. Hi. Today we're going to be breaking down this whole chicken. This is the dullest knife I've ever used in my whole life. It didn't even cut through the skin. Okay, that's much better. That was horrible. Really wish I would have worn gloves because I had to wash my hands like 5 times. There we go. There's our chicken. I'm gonna use the Rick Bayless roadside chicken with knob onions recipe. We're not gonna be using knob onions though, because I didn't want to bother buying some. So this is for a whole chicken, but I just broke down the whole chicken because we're gonna grill it in parts. It says 1.5 tablespoons of ancho chili powder. I'm gonna be using chili powder from Hatch, the best chili of all time in the whole world. Okay, what's next? Teaspoon of dried Mexican oregano. Two garlic cloves. It says 2 garlic cloves. We're using garlic. Hope no one minds. 4 teaspoons of cinnamon. I don't have Mexican cinnamon, sadly, but hopefully this will do. There we go. It's probably going to add a nice warmth to it. Big pinch of cloves. I got a shaker here of cloves. I'm just going to do a little shake. Cloves are very strong, so yeah, let's be light on that. 3 tablespoons of vinegar. 1, 2, 3. 1/4 cup of orange juice. 1, 2, 3, 4. And some salt from our Tupperware pepper shaker. There we go. We're gonna put this in the fridge for probably like 3 hours. Hopefully 4. I don't know. We'll see. If you see here, we want to get to maybe like 350, which is it's reaching pretty fast. So let's go get the meat.
And the ceiling fan in the living room. The one by the kitchen, you know, that ceiling fan by the kitchen. It broke. One of the blades broke and flew off and hit the damn. It broke one, crashed, and the other 2 broke and fell.
I was in there, yes.
She was right under it.
These are boneless, so they're gonna go in that. Okay, here's what I've been doing. Let's see if I can do this one-handed, because my father's distracted. So I basted them. Now I'm gonna flip, and we're gonna put them on the actual heat now, or at least closer to it, okay? Because now it's time to get some color. Okay, we flipped. We're closer, getting closer to the actual heat. We're less indirect now. We're more direct, I guess you could say. Now I'm getting the juice from the bag, and I'm basting the meat with it, just to keep it nice and juicy. So I already did this on the other side, which is why I flipped it. And then we're gonna close this. Just give it a few minutes, because we want some char, but we don't want like extreme burn, you know?
This won't help our reputations.
Nice look, guys.
Okay, so when I was in middle school, Bad Hair Day seemed like absolute drivel and proof that the Disney Channel had really fallen from grace. I mean, a whole movie plot all about some girl who had a bad hair day? That is so lame. There's actually a lot more to the story, and I actually didn't mind it that much, but it is pretty generic at the end of the day. Bad Hair Day is a bit of a crime, comedy, drama movie, and it follows Monica Reeves, who is a senior and really wants to be prom queen. She basically leaves every decision in her life up to polls that she puts on her own personal website that she coded herself, including her shoes, her prom dress, and her hairstyle. However, when she's taking all of the photos of all of the things that she wants to be polled, she ends up destroying all of them. The only thing she didn't pull was this necklace she found in an antique shop. Everyone around her seems to think it's ugly, but she likes it, so she just decided to go with it. An ex-cop pretending to be an FBI agent named Liz, played by the mom from Good Luck Charlie, is investigating the necklace because it actually has like $1 bajillion worth of diamonds on it, and it's the reason why she's an ex-cop. She couldn't recover it in her last mission, and it got her fired from the force. So now she's gone rogue and is just trying to bring the necklace in so she can get her job back and prove it to the chief of police, which happens to be her mom. So Monica forces Liz to take her around town to get her dress fixed, get her hair fixed, and get her whole prom night back on track, and then she'll give her the necklace. So Liz is forced to chauffeur her around, and the two bond over time. Monica's mother died a few years ago, so she's lacking a motherly force in her life, and Liz is able to be that for her. And Liz has been raised very strictly and matter-of-factly, so she learns to let loose a little bit and be more feminine. I feel like this movie is a perfect example of how older people fundamentally both understand and are completely clueless to how modern-day social media works. Well, yes, I do think there are plenty of people who use social media as a place to validate themselves and boost their extremely low self-esteems. It's a lot more subtle than someone literally polling every decision they make online so they can never be seen as wrong. And if something like that were to already happen, it would have already been established on a social media platform, not a website they coded themselves. It's not 2007 anymore, guys, it's 2015. So with the help of the police force, she's able to make it to prom. She gets to use the evidence locker as her own personal closet, but nothing's gonna fix that hair, so she chops it all off. Which is a decision I did appreciate, although the wig could have been better. And Monica wins prom queen, and she learned something, I don't know. Laura Morano is a great main character, I like her, but overall, I wouldn't recommend you watch it.
Okay, now we're trapped here together. Not much of an upgrade.
You know what? I kept waiting for the moment when Teen Beach 2 was going to get bad, and that never happened. Trust me, I completely understand why people absolutely hate this movie, and the entire time I was bracing myself for like some sort of tragedy and a bad movie to happen, but no, I actually really love Teen Beach 2. It's definitely not as good as the first one, and to a certain degree, yes, it does ruin the first one. But you know what? It's complicated, and it's messy, and I like complicated, messy things. Teen Beach 2 follows Mac and Brady at the end of summer vacation, starting high school again, and not knowing if their relationship is going to last past the summer bliss of it all. The answer is that things are more difficult than they originally thought they were going to be. And what do you know it, Layla and Tanner have accidentally made it into the real world. See, I like that these movies' plots reflect the worlds that they're taking place in. Since Teen Beach Movie takes place in Wet Side Story, things are very cut, clean, and dry and simple. Dry literally and metaphorically because their hair doesn't get wet. But since Teen Beach 2 is supposed to take place in our real world, things are not really that cohesive, and certain plot lines just don't follow certain threads. In reality, I realize that's because this is kind of a plotless, sort of directionless film at the end of the day. But I'm going to pretend that the writers were actually geniuses all along and planned the story like this because that's what real life is like. Anyways, the big controversial ending is the fact that basically the entire first movie gets erased from the universe. I thought this was going to be done in a really lame and cliche way, like they hit a big reset button, because this is a spoiler that I did know about. But no, I actually think the scene played out decently well. I didn't really mind it all that much. I like that we get explorations of how the patriarchy is not only limiting for women, but also for men. I mean, it's much more obvious for women because I think the Disney Channel has to be, and also they're not radical enough to like really analyze it from the men's perspective. but seeing Tanner have to deal with the fact that he loves just an ambitious, smart woman, and Brady having to deal with the same, it's kind of cool. I do wish that Layla and Tanner had like a different relationship struggle that was not the exact same one as Mac and Brady, but hey, what are you gonna do? Mac encourages Layla to change the plot of the movie to make herself the main character, which I have problems with, but I can't get into that right now. So because Layla changed the movie, and Mac and Brady met when watching Wet Side Story together, that means that they never ended up meeting, and they re-meet each other and have a brand new meet cute at the very end of this movie. That is kind of gross and annoying, and I love it. I love this sort of bittersweet kind of ending. Yeah, this movie does not go down easy, but I think it's for the better. I did not think the Disney Channel was ever going to do something this weird and complex. So yeah, I'm going to say that Teen Beach 2 is a really good movie. And also I have no idea where it's going to go in the ranking because of just how bizarre this thing ended up being.
No, stop! Stop this madness!
I've been tracking a vampire princess? Huh. I would have thought vampire royalty'd be better dressed.
I heard that, you jerk!
I'm sorry everybody, but I can't help but be cynical about the Descendants franchise. Its charm is slowly starting to wear me down into becoming a fan, but I just don't think I'm quite there yet. And I know about all of the drama that happened with Mattel and Ever After High, so I'm really trying not to let that whole drama factor into my idea of this movie literally only existing because corporate mandated that they one-up Mattel. But I can't, okay? People love these movies, and I really don't want to bum people out by being an asshole about it. So Descendants follows a world where all of the characters from Disney movies all live in one world. All of the good guys live on the island of Eridon, and all of the villains have been cast away to a small, decrepit island where they have a barrier and they cannot leave. That is until Prince Ben, the son of Belle and the Beast, now that he is being crowned king of Eridon, he opens a foreign exchange program where kids from the evil island can come to Auradon Prep. The 4 kids that have been picked to come to Auradon Prep are Mal, the daughter of Maleficent, who is played by the absolutely iconic Kristen Chenoweth, Evie, the daughter of the evil queen, Jay, the son of Jafar, and Carlos, the son of Cruella de Vil. They have been told by their parents to take over the United States of Eridon and steal Fairy Godmother's wand so they can give it to Maleficent to use for evil powers. But over time, they learned that they want to be good, and also Mal falls for Ben, when originally it was part of their scheme to steal the wand. Listen, I love it when a bunch of misfits end up having to go to a preppy, fancy charter school on scholarship. It's one of my favorite teen movie tropes. And each of the 4, they get something to do, which I can appreciate. I just don't really like this movie all that much, but I can understand why people love it so much, and I can appreciate the effort that's been put into it. I'm not a big fan of the music either. I'm sorry, y'all. I can't get into the music that much. I like Mal and Ben as a couple, which is good because I heard that they're going to be like the main focus of the rest of the series. And overall, I'm warming up to the idea of Descendants, but like I said, I'm still feeling a little bit cynical about it, and I'm not going to start like a Descendants fan blog anytime soon. But I completely understand the hype, and I'm actually excited to see where the series goes from here.
I bet that disappearing spell went wrong. Or everyone turned invisible. Or made everyone silent and tiny.
Okay, Invisible Sister was an incredibly adorable kids movie to watch. Movies like this are what make me so glad that I'm doing this project in the first place, because it proves a hypothesis I had from the very beginning, which is that the DCOM as a genre of film has been the same the entire time, and they're not bad now when I became too old to like them. I feel like so many people my age who grew up watching the 2000s DCOMs probably look down on a lot of the late 2010s stuff, but a movie like Invisible Sister genuinely could have come out in any decade of the DCOM. Like, this could have been made in the Zoog era and it would have fit in just fine. This movie follows Cleo and Molly. Molly is an extremely popular and well-liked girl, and Cleo is an emo menace. Cleo happens to be a genius who accidentally invents a potion for turning something invisible. And because of a bunch of complicated circumstances, she ends up accidentally turning her sister Molly invisible. Molly can't miss her lacrosse game, so Cleo has to pretend to be her at school so she can keep up appearances. So while Cleo has to pretend to be Molly, she also has to try and find the antidote. The two sisters, who were kind of distant and didn't really know how to relate to each other, learn to bond and understand each other in their own circumstances. Because this is a DCOM and they're not going to tackle anything seriously, it is all left very in the shadows as subtext. But to me, it really seems like Cleo has depression and she struggles to really connect and bond with others because of this. So she finds herself being jealous of her sister, who is just so easily able to brighten people's mood and easily navigate school and everyday life. But Molly has always been jealous of Cleo's intelligence, and when she learns what it's like to not garner attention, which Cleo very much does not a lot of the time, she really starts to understand why Cleo behaves the way she does, with sarcastic comments and being dismissive of people. I love the sibling duo. I think they really navigated the whole thing pretty well. Yeah, overall, Invisible Sister was really adorable, and I actually think it has a lot of really good messages and kind of elements that I think children could really appreciate. I'm not sure if I'll go back to it that often. Maybe once in a while around Halloween time I'll think to throw it on. But overall, if you have a young child and you need to put a movie in front of them, I would highly recommend this movie. Check it out if you haven't yet.
Anybody ever tell you you are a really bad babysitter?
I'm new at this.
Okay, we finally made it. The 100th Disney Channel original movie. Disney Channel appropriately hyped up the release of this movie by airing every single Disney Channel original movie we've already talked about in 2016 leading up to this movie coming out. And it's not really anything special, it's your pretty standard average DCOM fare, but I still had a good time with it. Adventures in Babysitting is what I would call a really fun TV movie. There are some elements that are skipped on and not developed as much, but overall, it's an enjoyable experience that, doesn't upset me in any way. This movie follows Sabrina Carpenter and Sophia Carson as Jenny and Lola, respectively. One thing I found interesting about Lola is that she's supposed to be a little bit older. She's supposed to be already graduated high school, and Jenny is supposed to be a lot younger. She's still in high school, and she skipped a grade. Jenny is a type A, very clean and organized and rule follower, and Lola is a spontaneous and wild child who is consistently getting parking tickets. They both apply for a photography internship, and Jenny only does it so it can look good on her resume, whereas Lola is actually passionate about photography. And this is kind of her only chance to possibly getting into art school because she flunked out of all of her classes. At the meeting for the internship, the two accidentally swap phones, and Lola, being a chaotic evil, decides to take up a babysitting job that Jenny was supposed to do. Jenny was already booked with another babysitting job. Lola is babysitting the Andersons' kids, and she almost sets the house on fire within minutes of being their babysitter. AJ Anderson loves roller derby, Trey Anderson is an edgy 14-year-old who snuck out to go to a concert, and Bobby Anderson is a wannabe Gordon Ramsay Iron Chef. When Jenny realizes that they switched phones and hears of all of the mishaps that are happening at the Andersons, she takes the kids that she's babysitting, Katie Cooper, a girl who won't get out of her mother's expensive jewelry collection, and Emily Cooper, an edgy girl who just dyed her hair green when her parents told her she was not supposed to do anything to her hair. They go on a rendezvous to try and get Trey back after he snuck out, and eventually 10,000 different mishaps end up happening. The two girls learn to bond, I feel like I'm saying that quite often in these reviews now, and they both help each other realize that elements of their personality are too rigid or too flowing. Like, Jenny learns to have fun every once in a while and go after the boy she likes, and Lola learns that she needs to own some responsibility and think about her actions and, dates a cop. Overall, Adventures in Babysitting was cute, and it was exactly what I was expecting it to be. I think the ensemble cast was really fun, each kid had a fun little personality and got a good amount of screen time. Even though this wasn't some big spectacle for the 100th DCOM, I don't think I want the DCOMs to have huge spectacles, so if anything, I appreciate this movie for what it's trying to do.
I wanted to date a girl in high school, not be one.
Okay, so the swap made me an emotional wreck. I did not go in with an open mind for this movie. Considering that I know the Disney Channel and I know how they do things, I was expecting this movie to be very cliche and kind of dated. I know it's only 9 years old, but still. But no, I was actually pleasantly surprised. I really enjoyed the swap, which I was not expecting at all. I really thought this was going to be like a negative takedown review. The swap follows Jack and Ellie as they temporarily swap bodies. I will say that the opening of the movie before they swap is a bit underbaked. I would have liked to see the two characters interact and get to know each other in their own bodies at the beginning, but once they swap, it's a pretty fun romp. And I'm usually not for this whole battle of the sexes thing, but I really do think that the Disney Channel tried to make a movie where they break down gender roles and really just try to explain how arbitrary a lot of these quote-unquote rules are. And this is 2016, so we have to keep in mind how things were when it comes to discussing this sort of topic. At the very end of the movie, we get to see Jack, who of course Ellie is in the body of, say that boys are allowed to cry. And it's like, obviously to you and me, that's like a known fact, but I bet for children, and especially in 2016, this was like kind of a revolutionary topic, you know? Especially on such a massive mainstream kind of platform. This is kind of what I was hoping to see with Teen Beach 2 and how they were breaking down like women's gender roles, but they really weren't on their way yet to doing the same for men, and that's what they do in this movie. Also, we got another dead parent, but of course this dead parent actually is important to the plot. It's not just like a throwaway line. That's kind of why I made that running joke of like dead parents, because they usually don't mean anything, but in this movie, it's a very, very important thing. And Ellie also has a parent that she's missing, but he actually just left, and I think they tackle that topic really well. I feel like these movies are usually trying to uphold the idea of the nuclear family to the point where it can feel a bit absurd, but this movie really embraces the fact that, like, yeah, sometimes your parents are deadbeats and you should kick them to the curb. And also, it's important to mourn the loss of a parent. I think people who are a lot more highbrow might look down on this movie and say it's not doing anything revolutionary or interesting, but considering the type of movies and the type of headspace I've been in going through this project, this is honestly so refreshing, and even though I personally think the whole body swap genre should be retired, or at least in this context of a battle of the sexes, I think this is a great film to send that whole genre off with. I don't know if I'd recommend this movie. I'm very fascinated with it, and I'm probably going to give it a much higher rating than it probably deserves, but oh well. Okay, so for the past two eras now, we've been kind of coasting in the 7 range when it comes to the amount of decoms. That's about to change for this next one. The social media era only had 4 decoms come out. And it's not like this era happens to be shorter than the others, it's around the same length as the previous 2 eras that we've talked about. But like I've said, Disney Channel has been absolutely slashing the amount of decoms they're making. My theory to this is the fact that they now have such an extensive back catalog, I mean over 100 movies, that the corporation probably just thought that they've done them all already and that they don't really need to make that many more. Like, if you want to fill some airtime with a random basketball movie, you got like 10 to pick from the 2000s. And these stories are timeless enough and aren't so dated to where, yeah, you really can just air them into infinitum. That is one thing I will praise the decom for. They've all been relatively evergreen. But another reason why I think we're getting so little decoms in these later eras is because of diminishing returns. The last movie I reviewed, The Swap, I kind of said I liked it and I thought it was actually pretty good. Well, you want to know how many viewers that got? Only around 2.6 million on its initial airing. Now, in the modern day, a movie premiere getting 2 million views on cable is amazing and it's astronomical. And even in 2016, that was a decent number. But a year ago, the movie Invisible Sister got 4 million viewers on its initial premiere. Literally double the amount. And I don't think it's down to quality alone. I would say that both of these movies are of equal quality. Or that they had cast decom actors with not enough brand recognition. If anything, I would say Peyton List has more than Rowan Blanchard, because Peyton List had been in 2 different Disney Channel shows at the time, versus Rowan Blanchard, who was just in Girl Meets World, which was just starting around the time that that movie came out. It's just the fact that no one's watching cable anymore. We're officially in the year 2017, and things are definitely changing in culture. And the social media era reflects this. I mean, look at the title. The Disney Channel logo is relatively the same, although any of the texture and shadows and shading have been completely flattened. The bumpers now have all of these emoticons exploding out of the middle of the screen, to reference the fact that yes, kids do be on their phones and they do be using emojis. And also, the Disney Channel wand IDs seem to have changed very slightly. Now, instead of a generic background location, they're in a colorful void. Generally, this era really emphasized bright neon colors. I was trying to figure out why neon colors have been such a thing for this era, and I can't really think of any, but I have one kind of crackpot theory I can go for. I think 2017 was around the time people really started getting into the whole sad gray beige vibe. And maybe the Disney Channel was attempting to be a place of respite by including all of these colorful images in their marketing, associating whimsy and color with the Disney Channel so you can not associate it with the boring, white, sterile, bland colorlessness of social media. But still being hip with the kids by including the emoticons and having things kind of be displayed in a similar way to a social media. But again, anybody who would connect to that association is not watching Disney Channel anymore. So anyways, there's really not much to say about this era. These eras don't really even say anything about the movies that are coming out at this point. These different eras in the marketing usually reflect what the Disney Channel is trying to do with their content. But nowadays, all of the marketing and the imagery associated with the things they're making are just completely disjointed and jumbled. And I hate to break it to you, but it's not gonna get better in the future. Disney Channel is definitely off their bumper and advertising game. So yeah, I'll see you here again when I'm done reviewing these 4 movies and we talk about the next era. Hi everybody, I hope you've been enjoying the video so far, and one thing I want to preface is that for the next 3 movies, I'm going to have to use trailer footage, and I just wanted to apologize for that. I've already been getting a lot of issues with copyright and getting frivolous copyright strikes, which is the whole reason why this video is coming out later than I originally intended, once again. And so trailer footage is the best way to make sure that doesn't happen, and it's very likely to happen with some of the most popular movies that we're talking about in this video, like Descendants and Zombies. So I just wanted to preface with that. Because I really want this video to come out as soon as possible, and because I'm going to be getting some copyright strikes, it's very likely that I won't be making any money off of the first few weeks that this video is public. So if you could please like and subscribe to support me and help out the channel, I would really greatly appreciate it. I already appreciate and I'm extremely grateful for as much people have already been doing. Even when I'm not uploading, I'm still getting plenty of views and likes and comments, and my videos are just doing really well. So I deeply appreciate that. Anyways, I'm going to do a quick little intermission. I hope you guys have been enjoying the intermissions. When I make this all one big long video, these intermissions will be more separated. They won't all be clustered at the end here. But I hope you've been enjoying them. I've been enjoying making them. And at the end of the day, I think that's all that matters, really. But I mean, obviously, if they make the video horrible, then I'll cut them out. Sorry, did I wake you, buddy? So we're gonna do another intermission, and then we'll talk about the next 4 movies, and then we'll just keep going. So, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Like and subscribe if you want to like and subscribe. Welcome back. It's been a few hours, but for me, I've always been here, baby. So for the snack today, I thought it would be criminal to not do and recreate some foods from Kim Possible. I would argue that Kim Possible is one of the most popular and famous animated TV shows from the Bounce era. And since Kim Possible does have a DCOM, it will count to include it in this video. When I first thought of this idea, I went around asking some people that I knew about, like, what were your first thing that comes to mind when I say the word DCOM foods? Like, what are some of the first foods you remember from Disney Channel original movies? And the first response I got was Bueno Nacho. So yeah, we have to create something from Bueno Nacho. So I'm specifically going to do the final order that Ron makes in the movie. Specifically, the nachos I'm a bit concerned about because in that scene, they just seem to be like paper trays filled with tortilla chips. So famously, the nacho is a taco with all the taco accoutrements as well as nachos inside of it in a big ol' thing. This is obviously going to be kind of hard to replicate, especially like visually how they show it in the show, but in the movie it's not shown the same way, so I don't really know where to go with from here. I might just make some nachos and make some tacos and then just kind of, you know. So, I don't know. We'll see how things go with this one. We'll see what I decide to do once I actually create the food. Oh no, I started recording. Okay, so it is currently... Oh, god damn it. It's currently 2:36 in the morning, and I am starving. I've been editing, and I'm gonna continue editing after I finish filming this. Well, first we're gonna make some Jamaica agua fresca, because I was supposed to make that like earlier and I forgot, so. But we are also, more importantly, making the naco. The naco, if you're unaware, is from Kim Possible. And since Kim Possible technically has 2 movies as far as I'm aware, but I think only one of them is considered decom. I don't know, ask later me to do research. So I need 10 cups of water and 1 cup of sugar. You know what, that's all I want to do. That seems like that's full enough. Oh shit. Can't even fucking see it. That's 8 cups of water. I'm gonna do 3/4 cup of water since I'm removing 2 cups. We're gonna do a 1/2 pound of ground beef. This shit is the cheapest kind they sell, so we're gonna have to drain some fat. I got my seasonings just off screen here. Look at that. Hey, this ground beef, it's looking like it's cooked. I'm scared. I've never done this before. Oh god, this feels like a bad idea. We're gonna add a little bit of water to make it nice and juicy, like we see in the movie, so yeah, okay, there we go. Y'all think this is enough for 8 cups of water? I'm using a paper plate, you would too, whatever. Okay, we're just gonna nuke this for like 30 seconds. The tea is done, by the way. Oh, and so are my nachos. So I just took it off the heat and I'm just gonna let it sit here and cool. Okay, we have our heated up tortilla. Let's just do half of this maybe. This is crazy. Okay, there. I don't think this is in the show, but this is what I want right now, so. There we go. Come on. Okay, there's too many nachos. We gotta take some out. Okay, there. The naco. I'm gonna give this a bite. I mean, it's pretty damn good. My stomach just made a weird noise. To make it feel more like a taco, put the rest of the meat in here. Some guac might be good, but I don't have any. Yeah, more ground beef helped. You know what? This isn't that bad. But that might be because it's 3 in the morning. If I had made this for lunch, like I originally planned, I probably would have not liked it as much. Logistically, it'd make more sense if I just made myself a beef burrito with chips in it. Also, was this before Taco Bell invented the crunch wrap? Because this is giving major crunch wrap vibes. Anyways, okay, bye.
Where did you get that? Janitor's closet. Always upgrade before a boss level.
So I knew that I had to have measured expectations when going into watching Tangled before Ever After, but I can honestly say that I'm still surprised. Tangled Before Ever After is a special case because this is actually the pilot for the Tangled TV show. Networks like Nickelodeon have a lot of hour-long specials from their TV shows included in their original movie catalogs, but this is the only example that we have for Disney Channel. I mean, if My Babysitter's a Vampire were to be considered a DCOM, then that would count technically. But this movie being the pilot to a further story and TV show really shows. But that's not inherently a bad thing. I will say this movie did spark my interest, and I might end up watching the show because I'm very fascinated to see what they'll do. Tangled Before Ever After follows our cast of Rapunzel and Eugene on the eve of Rapunzel's princess coronation. Eugene decides to propose, but Rapunzel feels that she's being constricted by the new lifestyle she has to live as ruler of a land, and she wants to go out and explore. And luckily her lady-in-waiting happens to be a badass who is willing to take her beyond the corona walls, where her hair accidentally gets turned back into its long yellow golden form. Yeah, I had a feeling that they were going to have to revert her hair back to how it was in the movie for branding purposes, but at least they tied in this brand new mystery and whole story arc they can explore in the TV show into it. Also, she technically says no to the proposal from Eugene, which is wild. I thought they would at least be engaged. It's framed as the reason why she says no is because she thinks that Eugene wants to stay in the castle with her and be content with their royal lifestyle. And to a certain degree, yeah, that is what Eugene wants because he grew up horribly poor and had to become a thief just to get by. But he says at the very top of the movie that as long as he's with her, he doesn't matter where they are. And I feel like if that was properly communicated in this movie, I would have felt a lot more satisfied. There's a lot of things in this movie that get unresolved, and of course that's because you have a whole TV show to watch afterwards. But this is also, I'm pretty sure, the shortest Disney Channel original movie. It's barely an hour long, and I think as a standalone pilot movie, there should be a few more conclusions put in place. I think this would have been a lot more fully realized if there was at least maybe 15-20 more minutes and they didn't fully wrap up these storylines, but at least provided a satisfying conclusion for this standalone project. But overall, I really appreciate how seriously all of these characters are taken and that they're actually given like emotional weight and arcs that clearly stem and expand upon what they were in the original movie. It kind of reminds me a lot of Cinderella 3. I had that movie on VHS tape and I loved it so much. I'd only recommend you watch this if you're going to watch the TV show because it left me a bit unsatisfied in the middle of this watch through. But it still was really good, and I probably will watch the show now, so I guess it did its job as a pilot.
Whatever the songbird is, just call me when you want me to kick her butt, okay?
She doesn't have a butt. Mermaids don't have butts.
So Descendants 2 was very interesting. I think the series as a whole is really starting to grow on me, and I'll explain why in a little bit. Descendants 2 follows our beloved Mal, as she's starting to feel some insecurity about being in Auradon. She basically stripped all of her identity away from herself so she could be the princess of Auradon now that she's with Ben. And since she's living a lie, she feels like she doesn't really fit in anymore and has a mental breakdown and decides to go back to the Isle. Ben and her friends Evie, Carlos, and Jay all chase her down to go bring her back to Auradon. And while they're there, they attract the attention of Uma, who has now become the queen of the streets in Mal's wake. She kidnaps Ben and in exchange wants Fairy Godmother's wand. They make a fake one, they have a brawl, it's actually a pretty cool brawl. But then she gets a hold of Mal's spellbook and puts Ben under a charm so he would think that he's in love with her. But Mal's able to break the spell with true love's kiss, and she realizes that she can't just throw away her past identity and who she really truly is. And all of them learn that their roots are very important to them, even though they now live in Auradon, and they want to use their influence now in Auradon to bring more kids over from the Isle. I think what's getting me to start understanding the appeal of this movie is that it reminds me a lot of those like quirky, different world comic books. Like how in DC Comics they introduce the fact that there's a bunch of different worlds. Like there's one world where Batman is a pirate, or another one where the Batman and the Joker are swapped and all that stuff. So it's fun to see these characters that we know and love placed in different situations and all shipped with each other. Like Maleficent's daughter and Belle and the Beast's son are together and they're gonna rule the kingdom. Like that's a really fun, kind of interesting pair up. A world where Ursula's daughter and Captain Hook's son are like buddies and in a pirate crew together. It's truly inspired. I didn't mind Descendants 2. I don't think I'm ever really going to go back to it anytime soon, but I appreciate the fact that it takes the characters seriously and their emotions seriously. Even though Mal feels like she doesn't belong in Eridon, the rest of them don't want to go back to the Isle because it's a very traumatic place for them, so I appreciate that that is like unpacked and explored. I fully understand why this series has a fandom, and to all the haters out there, y'all don't know what you're talking about. It's just not for me, though. I'm probably not going to really be into this series that much.
You're not like other girls, are you?
You could say that.
Okay, we're at another really big movie. We're finally going to talk about zombies. The Descendants franchise and the Zombies franchise are the two biggest things the Disney Channel has going right now. I mean, they are literally still actively making sequels to these movies. So that must mean that these movies are good, or that people really happen to like them. And this is another Descendants case where I really don't think I can get on board with these movies, but I will give them the praise that I do think they deserve. So the Zombies movies follows the town of Seabrook, the idyllic pastel community who happens to have a bunch of zombies living on the outskirts of town. At the start of the movie, Seabrook High School has decided to integrate, bringing in zombie high school students, although the janitor is their teacher and they're stuck in the basement. We follow two characters, Addison, whose mother is the mayor and is the perfect prim and proper blonde girl. Don't mind the fact that her hair is actually icy white and she wears a wig to cover it. And Zed, an overly optimistic zombie who thinks that he can make the football team and that integration will happen. We just have to behave. But it looks like the average high schooler at Seabrook is not going to conform so quickly. Addison's cousin Bucky is the head of the cheerleading team, and he makes or breaks if she's going to make it onto the cheer team, which she has been dreaming of ever since she was a little girl. She happens to have some encounters with Zed, and they fall in love. It's very High School Musical meets Hairspray. The zombies don't desire to eat brains anymore, partially because of the technology Z-bands that they wear. But when Zed accidentally glitches his, he gets extreme amounts of strength, and he's allowed to perform on the football team, and he thinks that being on the football team will bring about more integration for the rest of his zombie peers. Eliza is one of Zed's friends, and she's another zombie who is a bit too radical for this movie and thinks that an uprising should be what they should do to truly gain equality. But Addison and her blonde ambition says differently and agrees that they should all do peaceful protests. And apparently that is what ends up working in this movie. They've clearly already tried peaceful protest and slow integration, and neither seems to work against the extremely prejudiced Seabrook people. I will say though, I absolutely love Bucky as a villain. The actor that got to play him, Trevor Torgman, is absolutely phenomenal. Dare I say it, he's giving me Sharpay vibes. I'm sorry, is that blasphemous to say? Because here's the thing, at the end of the day, while I do not like the point and execution of the storyline in this movie, the choreography is doing so much heavy lifting for me finding this movie enjoyable. And the songs, they did the best they could. But if the songs are just a little bit less generic and a little bit less cringe, like all of the rapping it's something, then I probably would be telling people, hey, stop hating on zombies so much. Overall, I'm really not on board for the zombies movies and the allegories I already know they're gonna go with in the future, but when it comes to it being a silly DCOM, putting the plot completely aside, it does a pretty good job of being a silly DCOM musical, and if they maybe just leaned more into that instead of trying to do more quasi-political discussion, I think it would be a lot better for that.
Lemon swirl.
No, please. No more cupcakes.
Ooh, I'll take a lemon swirl.
So here's a little fun fact about me. When I was in high school, I took the stagecraft elective. It was the easiest elective you can take. All you had to do was show up and you could basically sit on your phone and play Bejeweled all day, which is exactly what I did, stay in school kids. And we actually watched this next movie, Freaky Friday, in class one day. Now, I can't remember if I showed up late to class or I left early, but either way, I was only there for half of what we watched of this movie, and the other half of the time that I was in the class, I just sat on my phone and played Bejeweled all day. So I say all of this to say that no, I have never seen this 2018 Freaky Friday remake. Because yes, this is a musical remake of the original Freaky Friday movie from the 2000s, which no, is not a DCOM, it was released theatrically, but you already know that by now. And by adaptation, I mean this movie that we're reviewing right now is an adaptation of the stage production, which is a musical adaptation of the original movie. So we have an adaptation of an adaptation on our hands. Here's another little fact about me. I quite love the Freaky Friday stage production. It is so good. And how does it work as both an adaptation and also just an overall DCOM? It's pretty good. I didn't mind it. The actress who originally played the mom in the musical, Heidi Blickenstaff, does reprise her role, and she is so phenomenal. She does amazing in this movie. And Cozy Zuzeldorf from Mighty Men plays the daughter, and you already know the plot of Freaky Friday. The mother and the daughter, they swap places for the day. They learn how hard it is to live in each other's shoes. They learn to appreciate each other, and then they switch back. The actual plot is completely different from the original movie. They got rid of the Chinese fortune cookie and replaced it with an hourglass. And you can definitely tell that the music is from a musical and not in-house made by Disney Channel, purely just by the lyrics alone. Disney Channel musical lyrics are usually very generic and bland, basically just a bunch of pop songs that you could listen to divorced from the story entirely, which a lot of Broadway musicals have this aspect as well, but Freaky Friday is not an example of that. The lyrics are very idiosyncratic in that very Broadway stage musical kind of way, but overall it does have more of a theater quality to it, which was very refreshing, especially after watching Zombies, and its very dated sound. It's dated for the time, might I say. I love the mother-daughter chemistry. The story translates really well to the movie. Yeah, I mean, if you want a movie adaptation of this musical, this is a good adaptation. I don't mind it at all. Check it out if you're interested, which you should be interested because it's pretty fun. Welcome to the item age. It's kind of wild how full circle this video ended up being, because in terms of Disney Channel bumpers and advertising, we're exactly back where we started. The first era we talked about, the Zoog era, lasted for about 5 years. I know that sounds shocking to some of you who have watched since the very beginning, because 40 movies came out in that 5 years, versus the measly 6 movies we have next to talk about during the item age. Or 14 movies depending on how you count it, but I'll explain that in a little bit. And the reason that I would describe as to why both of these eras, the Zoog and the Item, lasted so long is because it was a definitive transition point for the network where they had no idea where they were going in the future because of changing times. So their branding and imagery kind of lingered a little bit longer than when they actually got their act together later on. Except we don't have an explanation for that for the Item age. Spoiler alert, the Disney Channel still doesn't kind of have their act together, but I can definitively say that we're like in the modern age, right? We're officially in the year 2019, and who was watching cable television in 2019 anymore? Seriously. Just for reference, I've been using the Disney Channel fandom wiki as reference points for all of these different eras, and for all of the previous eras we've talked about, the Ribbon era, the Bounce era, etc., there has just been paragraphs upon paragraphs of information on what happened during these eras. But once you get to like the Glass era, the social media era, the Item age, there's pretty much nothing. And I would doubt that this is because the people who run the fan wiki just happened to got too old and didn't care anymore, although that is probably the case for a handful of people. That's just because not much happened during this era. The reason why we're calling it the Item age instead of the Item era is because I really thought that this was just going to go on for forever until the Disney Channel either deleted itself or just slowly limped away once all of cable finally disappeared. Which, I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but still. Because it lasted for so long, and so little had changed, and so little people are watching, that I just figured the Disney Channel was going to give up. But no, I'm actually re-recording this at the very, very end of me making this video. This specific section I have to re-talk about because the Item age did end, and there is more to talk about a little bit later. This era, or age, has slightly different variations from the social media era, but only very little. Instead of little social media icons, there's these little items on the screen. It has more of a relation to like Disney iconography, rather than just like full-on social media. Now, we're not quite there yet, but something I do have to mention right here, right now, is the fact that Disney Plus is really going to change things a lot. With the introduction of their streaming service, Disney Plus, that is eventually pretty much where all of their child audience is going to migrate to. Although, let's be honest, most of the Disney Channel audience is going to social media now. The audience for these movies have drastically dwindled. People would rather watch the Hype House than they would these Disney Channel original movies, and that's just a fact of life. Meanwhile, I would argue that the main audience for Disney Channel now are weirdos like me, grown adults who still have some fascination with their childhood and are going back to see what's going on nowadays. The way they changed the wand IDs back to being with the white backdrop and the blue glow stick makes me think this, because this is clearly just pandering to a older audience at this point. And with the success of the Descendants and Zombies franchise with older people, I think we're going to start seeing a lot more pandering to that audience rather than trying to create new and original things for younger people. That is, for the Disney Channel. Disney Plus is its own separate thing, and like I said, there's gonna be a lot to discuss there when we get there. So I'm sorry if this section is so short, but there really isn't much to say, and also I don't have many visuals to pair with this either. So let's just move on and see what we have next in store.
Surveillance music. Spying on you. Penny.
Yes, even the DComs are not free from Disney making live-action remakes of every single animated project they've ever made. I remember the 2019 Kim Possible live-action remake drummed up a lot of really bad publicity, probably getting the Disney Channel the most attention from normies that it's ever gotten in a really long time. So what did I think of it after only hearing negative things about it? It's just okay. Kim Possible 2019 follows Kim and Ron as they're about to start high school, significantly aging the characters down, while also trying to play this movie off as both a continuation of the original story, with Kim making jokes about her cartoon-accurate uniform, and also an origin since we see things like Ron adopting Rufus. Very awkward requel situation we have on our hands. There's also this new character named Athena, who the two befriend because she seems to be down on her luck. She starts to quickly outshine Kim in every way possible and goes on missions with the two to find out what Shigo and Dr. Draken are planning now that he's been busted out of prison. Kim gets major emotional damage from not being seen as the best anymore, and we get to see her confidence reach an all-time low. I honestly don't think it's a good way to endear the audience to this new version of Kim in my opinion, but I guess it works for the story. If they ever had any intention of making a TV show or another movie, I'm not sure how good it would have turned out, but that never ended up happening, so I guess we don't have to worry about it. And good news is that we don't have to see Kim's extremely 2010s looking outfit. I mean, the original outfit is also very 2000s, so it's just sign of the times, but still. Anyways, Athena, surprise, surprise, ends up being a villain and working with Dr. Draken, specifically being a robot that he designed to break Kim's spirit and make her no longer possible. But Athena at the last minute turns good with the power of friendship and sacrifices herself to stop the evil plans. They rebuild her from parts found in the rubble, and the movie is over. I like Sean Jambrone in this movie, and in general, honestly. I think it was Jenny Nicholson who said he gives off such Mickey Rooney energy, and I think that's hilarious. Shout out to him. I know he's been in some Disney stuff, but this seems to be his only Disney Channel specific role, and I think that's a shame because I would have loved to see him in more stuff. Very fun fact, when I first tried watching this movie, it was when I was with my 5-year-old and 2-year-old cousins during a family event. I figured they were children, and since it was part of my job to watch a children's movie, it would be great to see their reaction to it. They are a little bit younger than Disney Channel's core demo, but I didn't think that would end up mattering that much. Around 15 minutes into the movie, they got bored and wanted to watch Roblox videos on YouTube instead. I feel like that's a very accurate description of where the Disney Channel is at now, being a babysitter for toddlers and not being able to hold that audience's attention anymore these days. Again, I'm trying to be nice, but just skip it. You don't need to watch this. Okay, we're in the home stretch, y'all. Hope you've been enjoying the video so far. For dessert, we, of course, have to make the love potion cookies from Descendants. I specifically have my own personal chocolate chip cookie recipe, so I will be sharing that. Although famously, these cookies have walnuts in them, along with chocolate chips. So it seems like in the scene where we see the cookies being made, that the island kids didn't know what chocolate chips were, which makes sense. Chocolate seems like a expensive export that would have to be sent to the island that the Aradon Kingdom probably wouldn't be doing. But we do see a bowl of walnuts on the table as they're creating the cookies. So we at least know for sure that like they were going to put walnuts in the cookies. So originally they were just going to be like walnut cookies, I think. But then Mulan's daughter, I forget the character's name, I'm so sorry y'all. Mulan's daughter comes in and supplies the chocolate chips as well as the tier of human sadness, which I'm going to see if I can try and include in the baked recipe. Maybe if I feel up to it, I'll do the other baked good that we see at the very end. That's like the love potion reversal cure. But yes, these cookies play a central part, integral part, one might even say, in the actual movie. So that's why I wanted to make them. So there we go. Okay, yeah. Here's me making them. Thanks for y'all being interested in the intermissions. Unless you weren't and you skipped them, then whatever. The math is not mathing, y'all. It's not happening in my brain for whatever reason today. So 2 sticks is a cup, and I need 1.5 cup. So this whole stick cold goes in this pan. Okay, my God, my brain, it refuses. Okay, this is cooled. I hope it doesn't crack the glass. The glass isn't too cold, so. So I didn't talk as much during this recording session because I was watching Game Grumps compilations, as you can see in the top left corner. Pretty common occurrence when I'm baking, to be honest. I thought I had recorded footage of me browning 2 sticks of butter over the stove, but I can't find the footage anywhere, so that's what I did, and now I'm adding 1 stick of cold butter to the browned butter mixture. This is a method that I got from Bon Appetit's recipe on chocolate chip cookies. I mean, it's such a basic that, like, you basically just cobble together things you like from various cookie recipes to make your own. It's not super original or anything. I need 12 ounces of stuff in total, and I don't want half of it to be nuts. I want like 3/4 of it to be nuts. Let's just round it up to 16 ounces. I love a good amount of chunks in my cookies, so that's 2 cups. I should do a 4th cup of nuts. Question mark? Actually, I should do a 1/2 cup. A 1/2 cup. Yeah. Just do a little more, because why not, you know? These chocolate bags are poorly sealed, and as soon as I grabbed them out of the cabinet, like half of them spilt onto the floor. And like a sleeper agent, my dog was activated and was like, time for me to go eat those. And I was like, no, stop. So that's a 1/2 cup. So now we need 1.5 cup to make 2 cups. So let's do the rest of these dark chocolate. Okay, that's right around a 1/2 cup of dark chocolate. Now, 2 more. So I ended up doing 2 cups of brown sugar and 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. It looks absolutely insane on camera. That is so much damn sugar, but it makes a lot of cookies, so don't worry. You can always do more white sugar if you want. The brown sugar just really complements the nutty flavor of the walnuts and the browned butter a lot, so that's why I used that much. And then I ended up doing 4 eggs. Normally you would do like egg yolks to kind of bring more proteins or whatever. I don't know. I usually stop paying attention when they get into the sciencey part of baking. 4 eggs is plenty. And also you can always halve this recipe. Things are pretty easily halved for this thing. Oh, and I had to finish off this ancient bottle of vanilla extract, so I just dumped the whole thing in. And then I did a total of 3 cups of flour, and I added a little bit more at the end just because it still was a bit too wet. I live in a very dry climate, so that kind of changes the way baking things do. You know what I just realized right now? I have a KitchenAid. Oh, I know I have the KitchenAid, but I didn't even think about using it until just now, and I was like, oh boy, time to mix the flour in. Oh my god. Oh, my hand hurts so much. I'm gonna use a little bit more flour. See, when I touch it, it doesn't stick, but it's still wet. That's the texture I like. And then I baked dinner, and I baked the cookies while I was making dinner, so I didn't film myself making the cookies at all, but I used 2 tablespoons worth of dough. I baked them for around 12 minutes, I'm pretty sure. Anyways, thank you for watching. Okay, on to the rest of the video.
Permark Abnar Benny no Trath, Ki Vento Mortuos, Abnar Benny no Trath.
Okay, I think the Descendants franchise eventually won me over in the end. The more I think about this movie, the more I both like it and also dislike it, and I don't know how to explain that feeling in me. Descendants 3 picks up with the VKs, or the villain kids, being brought over from the Isle, although there is still conflict in the air. Uma is still on the loose from the previous movie, and Hades tries to make a break for it, but is eventually detained. And Ben and Mal are getting married! Yay! We see Audrey again, who I didn't even realize was not in the second movie. Is that bad? Who is extremely jealous of the fact that Ben did not marry her, and is very upset with the whole villain kid thing in general, since, according to her, they stole her life away. So she turns evil, which is something that I really like. I really enjoy the themes that were brought up, and how it was kind of subtle. As subtle as these movies can get. Even though Audrey's song was absolutely horrible, it's probably the worst song in the whole franchise, I'm sorry. The rest of the music did better than the previous movies did. I appreciated it. And then Uma returns and they have to go back to the Isle to get Hades' stone or whatever, and then we learn that Hades is actually Mal's secret father. At first I thought all of these conflicting plot lines were gonna be too much and that it was gonna distract from the one villain that I did like, which is Audrey, but actually I really appreciated just how kind of chaotic this story felt. It, again, reminded me a lot of those comic book pair-up stories like the Injustice series. And I'm a big old nerd for those, so I actually ended up appreciating just how mix-matched everything was. They're doing better stuff with the Isle, I do appreciate that. It's not said that the Isle is just some deep, evil place that no one wants to be in. There's a real community of people there who want to stay there, they just want their life to be improved, so I appreciate that at the end they decide to remove the barrier entirely, instead of just bringing everyone who they think is good from the Isle to Auradon. I appreciate that the Isle is like understood as an actual place that people would want to live in. I think they really got their act together for the third movie, and I really appreciate that. I will say something really sad about this movie is that it came out only a few months after Cameron Boyce's tragic death had happened, so RIP to him. He was such an amazing presence in this series, and I would have loved to see what he did with his career further. They handled the tragic situation very well, and something that kind of makes me upset is that they thought to make more movies after this. I understand they're spin-offs and they take place in different time periods or whatever, but it just kind of offends me that they bothered to make more movies after this very tragic passing. I loved Descendants 3. I'm on board. I'm not making my fan page anytime soon, like I said, but I understand why people like this series, and I'm all for it. Good movie.
Due to unforeseen circumstances, beyond our control, we have no choice but to cancel all classes, extracurricular activities, and, zombies, run!
Okay, Zombies 2. Talk about a series that hasn't actually improved as I kept watching it. I think I've grown to dislike this series the more that I watch it. Zombies 2 picks up with us learning more and more information about the world of Seabrook. We learned that when the settlers from Europe came to Seabrook, there were actually werewolves here, but the new immigrants pushed all of the werewolves back and fought against them and put them into the Forbidden Forest. The allegories continue, and not for the better. Apparently they found this extremely powerful energy source that was belonging to the werewolves that they stole and put to make a power plant, and that power plant made the zombies. We learn more and more each day. In the modern day, the werewolves are looking for that power source because it's what keeps them alive, and them being separated from it for so long are causing all of them to get sick and die. They all have silver streaks in their hair, and because Addison's hair is pure white, they think that she is their alpha leader and is going to lead them to the energy source, and I mean, she kinda does, but she's not a werewolf. And because the werewolves have dared to enter their town and leave the Forbidden Forest, all of the monster rules are put back into place, and the zombies are now in a precarious spot, which causes Zed to sing probably one of the worst assimilation songs I've ever heard in my whole life. I mean, it's a catchy beat and all, and the dance moves are fine, but still, I can't stand the lyrics. Zed is kind of an antagonizing force in this story because he wants to keep the rights that he has been given, and he's willing to discriminate against the werewolves to keep that power if they don't fall in line with what he believes in, which is be human more than anything else. Obviously, he learns to love his zombie self and appreciate everybody's differences or whatever, but still, I can't stand it. I do appreciate the fact that actual non-peaceful protest is what gets them to get the power source back, because every time they've tried peaceful protesting, it hasn't worked, so I'm glad they did an actual revolt and it ended up working in the end. I'm uncomfortable with this entire franchise and their allegories. They actually dare to use the word savages in this movie. And of course, I think they're using it in the more like modern context, but it's obviously a double entendre. I can't get into all the implications here. Someone needs to write a fucking book about how horrible this series is. Although, again, I can understand where people find endearment in this series, and I don't blame people who like it. It's just not for me. I can't do this, y'all.
Bye, ghost guy. Nothing personal about the whole Gal Gadot Fedora thing, right?
Finally, an original movie plot. The past 4 movies have all been either remakes or sequels, and even though I liked a few of them, it's refreshing to watch some new characters at first. I mean, sure, Upside Down Magic is a book adaptation, and it is pretty derivative of other stories like Harry Potter, but I still really appreciated it and found it to be a very charming kids movie. Show this movie to your kids instead of Harry Potter, really. Upside Down Magic follows the characters of Nori and Reina as they enter the new school of Sage Academy. They both are magic users, and they are sent off to this academy to develop their magical skills. Both of their powers are portrayed in different ways. Nori can transform into animals, but is always a cross between multiple animals and never just one. Where Reina can seemingly perfectly harness the power of fire, but is extremely insecure and thinking she's not doing her best at every given moment. Reina gets put into the flare classes because she can create fire with her hands, and Nori thinks she's gonna be a fluxer, but she ends up being put in the UDM program, or the Upside Down Magic program. This program is for kids who immediately don't display perfection in their magical powers, where they're supposed to sit and rot and let their powers die over time. And this is because they're afraid that shadow magic will prey on their insecurities of not being perfect at magic, and this shadow magic will kill everybody. The people of the academy think that only Upside Down Magic users can be infected by the shadow magic, but actually it's just anybody with insecurities, and we see that because Reina ends up getting pulled to the dark side. So all of the UDM kids with their peculiar powers must learn how to harness their skills and defeat the evil. Now this is an allegory that I can appreciate, because in my opinion, just in my opinion, the whole UDM thing seems to be an allegory for maybe autism or general learning disabilities. Just because they're not displaying their powers in a very specific way that the academy deems as correct, that automatically means they're broken and cannot be taught. But instead of letting them rot away in a dingy basement, one of the teachers who was also a UDM, who was told to let his powers die, did not let his powers die and is able to specifically help each kid learn to harness their powers in their specific way. Also, Nori and Reina have such a sweet friendship. I think that they could be a really great couple. If anyone's read the books, let me know if any of this is translated over to the movie. I think it's a perfectly fine kids film. It's very kiddie, the characters are very young, and I'm not like super interested in wanting to see it again, but it's a good movie to show your children. I'd recommend it.
Don't worry. DJ Benny B's spinning mad spells all night long.
What are you talking about?
Spin is such an adorable movie, and I really, really, really like it if it wasn't for just 1 or 2 flaws. Spin follows Riya Kumar, who is working at her father's Spirit of India restaurant. Her whole life is basically the restaurant until she meets cool British DJ Max, who goes to her school. He compliments her ability to make really awesome playlists for the restaurant, and they become quick friends. He teaches her the skills of being a DJ, and she seems to pick it up really fast. But because she's spending all this time with him, she's slacking on her restaurant duties. Her father is actually very understanding and is like, hey, if you don't want to work at the restaurant and you want to go do kid things, go do that. But she's convinced herself that this is what she needs to do to help her family, especially because we got another dead parent on our hands. Her mom passed away. And her grandmother is the creative influence in her life who is telling her to follow her dreams. She has this great close-knit group of friends who are all working on this fundraiser, which is inspired by the Festival of Holi, and they get Max to be the DJ. He wants to create a new song for this festival, and Riya helps him create it, basically giving him all of the best ideas. And when she sneaks away from her restaurant to go to the festival, he plays the song and doesn't thank her, which she finds very offensive. So then she sets out on her own to make her own songs and do her own DJ thing. And of course there's a big contest at the end that they have to compete against each other in to win. I thought that they were going to redeem Max in the end and prove that he was just jealous of the fact that she was very quickly better than him. Like, there's some insecurity surrounding him and his mother. The fact that his mother complimented Rhea's spinning ability before she ever complimented his. And I thought they were going to resolve that by him saying sorry and them at least going back to being friends. But no, she just burns the bridge with him and moves on. The movie was just so idyllically warm and encouraging in the beginning. It really hit me and caused me to really, really love this movie and invest in it. But once that happened, it kind of soured on me as a whole. I mean, I'm glad that Rhea learned that work can't be her whole life, especially as she's only like 15 years old, and that she needs to have fun with a creative outlet. I don't know, I feel like I would just like the message better if it was learn to communicate and understand one another and forgive each other, rather than just burn bridges and use that spite to fuel you. But maybe that's just me. Overall, I really liked Spin, and I would even argue it was on brink levels of quality up until that moment at the very end. It's still a wonderful movie, and I would highly recommend you check it out because it actually has some good DJing in there. Actually, I don't know much about DJing, but from what little I know, it sounded pretty good. So yeah, check it out if you're interested. Remember how I said earlier about things being full circle? Well, we're finally here. We're at the 2021 remake of the first ever DCOM, Under Wraps. First of all, let me just say, everything from Zombies 2 onward has such a specific, different vibe and look to it. You can definitely feel Disney Plus's influence on these movies because they're looking a lot less made for TV and a lot more made for streaming, if that makes sense. There's just a certain way they do cinematography that separates these two mediums apart from each other. So yeah, these are all still made for TV movies, but I mean, come on now. So what did I think of the remake of Under Wraps? I thought it was very underwhelming and boring. I mean, the story is exactly the same, but somehow also worse. It's kind of hard to explain, but it feels like the script was just written as it went with no real planning or thought, with a vague checklist of things that happened in the original movie to get through without any real reason. I mean, I'm not really offended or anything. It's not like the original Under Wraps was God's gift to humanity, but I can't help but feel that this is also pointless now. This movie isn't even bad, but like, what are we even doing here anymore? I realized that I didn't even really describe the character dynamics in my first ever original review. That's just because I thought the movie was pretty underwhelming, but man, if this is what we have in comparison, I would take the original any day. We follow Gilbert, Marshall, and Amy as they stumble upon a revived mummy in their local town weirdo's basement. He stole the mummy and was going to sell it to an eccentric person, but the mummy misses his long-lost wife, and they have to get him back into his tomb before midnight on Halloween night, or else he'll turn to dust, and they grow to love and bond with the mummy. It feels like a very safe remake. All of the harsh edges of that film, which there weren't that many to begin with, but all of those harsh edges have been extremely sanded down. I like Amy's she/her pronoun patch. I want my own now. That was pretty cool. Also, China and McClain and her sisters, they have a band called 3, I think that's how it's pronounced. They did a remake of their song Calling All the Monsters, which sounds completely different and in my opinion not as good as the original, but that's something of note at least. The movie has good Halloween fall energy, but with the shit pacing and lack of focused storytelling that is literally just a worse retelling of the original, I think you'd be better off just watching that and skipping this. I'm not looking forward to watching the sequel now. I have no idea where they take the story from here, and honestly, I don't really care to find out either. This movie just made me apathetic in a way I really wasn't expecting. So we've officially made it to the final Disney Channel original movie. Now, you see the runtime, and you're probably wondering what gives. Well, this is because in 2019, Disney Plus was established and eventually took over what the DCOM is understood to be. So because of that, we now have a serious thing to contend with what is a Disney Plus movie and what is a Disney Channel original movie. I am going to talk about this a little bit later from now, purely just because there is something so intensely different about these movies, and that's going to be obvious as we go on to review them. Now, a lot of reviewers would choose to stop at this point, and they're stupid, and I hate them. I don't know why I'm coming in so hot.
You're marking your territory.
I'm marking my territory. I'm the one who talks about DCOMs. I'm the one who wins.
I'm the video game boy. I'm the one who wins.
Because like I've said from the very beginning, a Disney Channel original movie is what Disney Channel says is one. So even if, in the most technical of technical standpoints, these movies that we're going to be talking about later on are not made by the Disney Channel Corporation, they were made by Disney Plus. If Disney Channel says they are a DCOM, then we're going to review them as a DCOM. I am adding so much work onto myself for pretty much no reason other than the fact that, like, I feel superior to everybody else. So even if a lot of people will agree that these are not Disney Channel original movies, and a lot of them are fine with that, there was actually a poll done on Tumblr by one of my favorite blogs called East High, and on this poll they asked people if they think any movies after Zombies 2, which we've already talked about previously, is a Disney Channel original movie or not. Zombies 2 was the first ever DCOM to be like simulcast aired onto Disney Plus. It was the first one to come out after Disney Plus got established, essentially. Just so both y'all know. So most people are saying that, like, well, now that Disney Plus exists, like, the idea of a Disney Channel original movie shouldn't exist anymore, because to most people, the idea of Disney Channel doesn't exist in their minds anymore. Literally, when I talked to a colleague of mine about Disney Channel original movies, and I said that I had decided to watch a month of Disney Channel when I was helping my grandma uninstall her cable, they were like, that still exists? I thought that got shut down, which is almost true. So going forward, we're going to work with the understanding that all of the movies that we're going to be talking about in the future came out on Disney Plus first before they came out on Disney Channel. So even though Disney Channel says it's a DCOM, we are going to consider it a brand new era that I'm going to be calling the Disney Plus era. So now we are about to talk about the final DCOM, Christmas Again. Or how is it pronounced? Christmas Again? Christmas Again? Anyways, I really wish that Under Wraps was the actual final DCOM, because in all honesty, that would have been very, satisfying, conclusive. We started with Under Wraps, we end with Under Wraps, but sometimes reality doesn't tie itself up in a nice little bow like we all want it to. So we are going to be talking about the final official Disney Channel original movie, which came out in November of 2021.
Wait, isn't it a Christmas movie?
Yeah, why would it come out in, like, December if it was a Christmas movie?
Did I ask you guys for your commentary?
Well, you're invading our space.
Well,
so.
You're in our walls.
You're in our walls right now, so I think you can have our opinion.
Okay.
You come to my house.
Okay, fair enough. But, like, you think I would know. If all people who exist in this world, I would know when the final DCOM came out. Like, seriously.
Are you sure about that? Like,
why don't you believe me? Plenty of Christmas movies come out around Thanksgiving time. Like, duh.
But, like, after Thanksgiving. At the very end of November.
Yeah.
December. Right?
December, pretty much.
You guys are so wrong, and you're gonna be so depressed when
Steph is over party.
Oh no, I'm kidding. You're gonna cancel me for getting the date wrong. It dropped the same day. That means it doesn't count. Oh my god.